First race of the playoffs, the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series racing on NBCSN from Chicagoland Speedway. It's the Tales of the Turtles 400. Let's head to Marty Snyder.
Hey, Rick, if you're looking for a dark horse in these playoffs, smart money might be with Matt Kenseth and his race team. As he told me moments ago, we've had the speed to win races. We just haven't put it together for that first win of 2017. In round one alone, Matt Kenseth has 7 career wins at these 3 racetracks. Don't be surprised if the 20 team storms out of the gate here in these playoffs, Parker.
Marty, Austin Dillon comes into his second playoffs as a bit of a long shot, but he showed great speed this weekend. And speaking to his crew chief, Justin Alexander, he said they've gained on the entirety of the competition, and this might be the best car they've had all year. I call that peaking at the right time. He'll roll off 9th, Dave.
Parker, though they've raced in NASCAR since the 1950s, Ryan Blaney's team, the famous Wood Brothers, are in the playoffs for the first time. Now they just have to manage that nervous excitement that comes along with it. Blaney starts 12th, Kelly.
Well, nobody enters the playoffs with more momentum than last week's winner, Kyle Larson. It was a win he called a confidence booster. He's never won on a 1.5 mile track, looking to change that today. They know the competition's steep. Their plan to out-execute the rest of the field. Rick?
Yeah, Kelly, and the words nervous excitement, pressure, all coming up because it all comes down to this. There are only 10 races with an opportunity for 16 drivers to win the championship. Let's get the engines fired. We go trackside for the command.
And now for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome your grand marshals. He's the voice of Michelangelo, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Greg Sipes, also joined by Chicagoland heroes.
Drivers, start your engine! Booyakasha!
You're ready.
Another word that can describe this feeling right now, maybe a little more comfortable. Once the engines are fired, the driver's in their office, ready to start racing. 400 miles in front of them. Martin Truex Jr., regular season champion. Can he take that into the playoffs?
In the playoffs, every team finds a bit more.
7-time champion, Jimmie Johnson.
And then the champion finds even more than that. That's what makes it so compelling to see the unthinkable being done.
I think the biggest difference now is going to be the intensity.
My heart starts beating, my heart starts pounding. Those are moments you just live for, and you got to take advantage of them.
I was put under the most pressure I've ever experienced in my life, and trying to win a cup championship.
We have what it takes to win it.
Oh, what a thriller! Truex does it!
But it's going to be very difficult no matter what the circumstances.
Ah, yeah! Take that!
Everything's on the line. This is make it or break it.
Make it or break it. That's what 16 drivers are trying to focus on as the playoffs start today from Chicagoland. We want to take a look at the starting grid. The first 3 rows made up of playoff drivers that we believe are going to easily advance out of the round of 16, like Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin. Kyle Busch, a dominant qualifying performance, really setting the tone for the weekend. Martin Truex Jr., regular season champion, and Kevin Harvick looking for his second championship. Martin Truex Jr. looking for his first. Brad Keselowski and Kyle Larson in row 3. Also strong contenders for the title in 2017. But then the picture takes a little bit of a change when we go to row 4 and you see Joey Logano, who's not in the playoffs, but Chase Elliott. What will he have to do? How do we handicap these drivers?
Yeah, Chase Elliott, what he needs to do, he needs to lean on that championship pedigree of Hendrick Motorsports and also his dad, Bill Elliott.
Yeah, and as you go back farther through the grid, you look, this is row 6, but how about row 7? 7-time champ Jimmie Johnson. The big question is, can he flip the switch? He hasn't been in playoff form. Can he find the speed to chase number 8?
Yeah, row 8, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has got to find a way to be better on the 1.5 miles. And Ryan Newman, pit strategy and restarts. That's their key to success.
Yeah, and then the 2004 champ, Kurt Busch. Can he continue what he's done the last few weeks? Has really found some speed, Rick. I think this 41 has found a car that can compete for a championship.
McMurray back there in row 10, also one of the playoff contenders looking for his first championship. We want to hear from the regular season champion before the green flag flies here at Chicagoland. Let's dial up Martin Truex Jr.
Hey, Martin, it's NBCSN booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you, guys.
Well,
Well, Martin, you guys have earned the right to be the favorite heading into these playoffs. What we all want to know is how can you keep that intensity up that you had during the regular season?
I think we just be ourselves, you know, race how we know how to race and make decisions, you know, based off of the way we know how to do things and what plays into our strengths. So playoffs are a big deal, and I think we're going to have to do a good job of just, you know, blocking out the pressure and just go racing.
When you speak of pressure, tell me about that pressure of this racetrack. What are the challenges? What are you going to have to overcome today to get a good finish or a win?
Yeah, the challenge here is just the tire fall off and the lack of grip in the racetrack, you know. Kind of got to be good on those short runs in case you get them at the end of the race, but you got to be good on long runs to put yourself in position. So just trying to balance that out, keep your car balanced all day so you can make good lap time and be willing to move around. It's a lot of grooves here, a lot of places you can find grip. So just try to search and keep your car balanced.
Martin, we really appreciate you letting us ride along. Have a good day, bud.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
We'll ride along with a few different drivers, one of those being Martin Truex Jr. and the Toyota onboard.
Yeah, great cameras on Martin Truex Jr.'s car. The Toyota camera giving us some great shots.
Well, in the same row, the 2014 champ, Kevin Harvick, has the Jimmy John's onboard camera. Brad Keselowski back in row 3 won this race back in 2014. He'll carry the Ford Performance onboard camera.
In row 5, we have Austin Dillon who pulled off that fuel mileage win at Charlotte. Can he do that again with the Coca-Cola cam?
Not only will we be right at track level, but we'll be high above the racetrack. Our aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. Interesting how this weekend started off with Brad Keselowski calling out really NASCAR at the time, saying that there's a manufacturer that has an advantage over everyone else out here, saying that Toyota was better than Ford and Chevrolet. And the Toyotas took to it and said, well, wait a second. Don't worry about us. Worry about yourself. And that was really kind of the tweets that went back and forth. Kyle Busch was the most flamboyant when he went back with his response. We can't even say it on TV, or we can't put it as far as the acronym that he said. But what a history the two have had. And it hasn't just started. This has been for years. The two have battled on the racetrack, and they don't like each other.
No, they really don't. They're highly competitive. You can see all the way back that started 2010. You know, this is 2013. Continue to find a way to run each other. Brad Keselowski saying you need to go in the back for that move. This is Bristol in 16. But the fact of the matter is, Steve, they don't like each other. They're highly competitive and each want to win, and they do not get along.
Well, they don't like each other, and I support it. That's what sports are all about. It comes down to man versus man. Who can perform when the pressure is the highest?
I'm way behind in payback, just FYI. He's way ahead, so if anybody's going to be getting it, it's going to be him.
That was the response that Kyle Busch said as far as paybacks in the media center. That was on Friday after qualifying. Now, just before this race gets underway, after driver introductions, they end up on the same truck going around the track.
They were pitted next to each other in the garage all week, too. I mean, it's just how it always works out. But you can see these facial expressions, they're not made up. They just plain and simple are not happy with each other at the moment. Dave.
Oh, guys, there's no question that these two are a little bit frosty back there. Did not speak a word to each other on the entire ride around. And as one of my friends texted me before we got off the truck, looks about 20 degrees colder in the back of your pickup.
And Dave, I talked to Paul Wolf, Brad Keselowski's crew chief, about it. He said, listen, Brad's his own man. He can say what he wants to say, but us as a team, we're going to focus on what we can focus on. He told the team in the team meeting, we can't get caught up in a Twitter battle or a manufacturer battle. All we can do, be the best Ford we can be, and that will be good enough, Rick.
Take a look at the race analysis. 267 as far as laps, 400 miles. Stages, 80 laps for the first and second stage, 107 for the third stage.
Yeah, with the fuel mileage being almost 60 or just over 60 laps, it should be fun to watch.
Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, row 1. We're racing in Chicago. Chase Elliott taking advantage of the high line. He started on the outside and has tried to make that work for him in the 24 as he's moved up following after the 4 of Kevin Harvick.
And I think that right there shows you the mentality of Chase Elliott and his team. The initial green flag of these playoffs, he's on the outside making something happen.
And I think that's it. Making something happen. That's what playoffs force, Rick. You cannot sit back and wait for the points and positions to come to you. As a team, as a driver, you need to be on the offensive, going out there earning those points.
And side drafting down the back straightaway. You know, we talked a lot about these teams not wanting to make a mistake in this first round, because if they don't, they can move forward. But clearly, Chase Elliott has said, hey, we're going to be the aggressor. We're not going to ride around and just gain points. We need to be faster anyway. We're going to have to push to be there. Chase Elliott aggressive early.
The tires they're starting this race on are the ones they qualified on, so they're utilizing those as their first set. So a little bit of laps on the tires already.
There's Joey Logano. You know, Joey Logano is not in these playoffs. No one would have thought Joey Logano wasn't going to make these playoffs, but his year's not over. He's here to prove that he belongs, and here to try to win some races.
Kyle Busch, the former champion, out in front, already has a 0.6 of a second lead over Martin Truex Jr., who has been able to move up to second. Denny Hamlin's dropped back to third. Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott rounding out the top 5. Then Logano, a non-playoff driver, running in the 6th position. Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, Matt Kenseth, and Austin Dillon, all rounding out the top 10.
How about the 20 of Matt Kenseth? It's hard to believe the 2003 champion makes the playoffs, but without a seat for next year. It was announced earlier this year he will not be back in the 20. Eric Jones is going to fill that car, yet nothing. No seats have opened up. No news for Matt Kenseth.
Steve, you can imagine then the passion that Matt Kenseth has for these final 10 races. He doesn't know if it's the last 10 races of his career or not. I asked him about that earlier this week, and he said, I honestly don't know anything for 2018. All I have to focus on right now, these final races in 2017, trying to win his 2nd ever championship. And wouldn't that be well-timed? A man who doesn't have a ride going for a title.
But Jeff, can you do that? Can you truly focus on the task at hand with no future or an uncertain future kind of looming?
Well, I think it's a very difficult thing to do, and especially a man like Matt Kenseth. He's a champion, a multi-time race winner, one of the best drivers in the sport. And just being told, hey, because of your age, because, you know, we might not have a spot for you. I think that's, you'd have to be bitter, right? You'd have to be some upset for sure. So how will he channel it? Will he push too hard, get too aggressive, or can he keep himself calmed down and do what he needs to do while not trying too hard?
38 race wins for Kenseth.
Well, you talk about Matt Kenseth. Well, how about Matt Kenseth's teammate? We've talked about it so much before the race and the start of the race, this feud between Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski. Well, I talked about it. That was pre-qualifying. What did Kyle Busch do? He came out and sat on the pole by the largest margin we have seen since 2009. That made a statement, and he continues that statement. Only 7 laps into the race and well over a 1-second lead already.
There's the gap between Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr., and I will add, both of them are Toyotas. So Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, all 3 driving Toyotas. They are up front. Then it's a Ford by Kevin Harvick, a Chevrolet by Chase Elliott, making up the top 5.
And Kyle Busch, I think he's certainly one of the favorites, but, you know, every team is going to have to execute in these playoffs, and, you know, what he's going to have to do is they're going to have to continue to deliver. They're going to have to execute just like they've been able to do. They can't have a downturn in performance. Continue to do the things that you've been able to do to get yourself here.
This racetrack, a lot of bumps, a very rough racetrack, as we see the 4 of Kevin Harvick with a good run on the 11 of Denny Hamlin. But a bumpy racetrack, different lines. The cars have got to be set up differently for this racetrack. Parker.
And guys, what you see Kevin Harvick doing right there, going to the outside line, that is what he does so well. And speaking to his crew chief, Rodney Childers, I said, why is he so good at some of these worn-out racetracks? He said, I watched final practice from his onboard camera from yesterday. He ran 22 laps, and never did he run the same line twice. He searches and he finds a way to adjust his driving style to make different lines work. He's going forward, as you see right now in that Ford car.
You know, one thing I've liked that we've been hearing out of Kevin Harvick lately, though, is we've talked about the Toyotas and how fast they are. Well, Kevin Harvick's been asked, how do you win? And I like his answers because it seems honest. You know what? I need to go out and points race. I need to go out and take advantage of the car that I have. Well, that was his approach to the weekend. But to be honest, I think that this Ford does have a winning car. So his playoff key might be to find a way to win without the fastest car. Kyle Busch might be a little faster at the moment, but this Ford is definitely not a 5th or 10th place car. I give it a top 5 car for sure.
They unloaded with more speed this weekend than we've seen from them in the previous weeks. They have stepped their game up coming to Chicago. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They're going to have to execute in the race. Listen, lap 11, it's a long way to go, but a good start to the weekend for Kevin Harvick.
Marty, what's happening with the 2 of Brad Keselowski?
Well, Rick, a bit of an odd circumstance. You might see on the left side of the car, the side skirt is actually bent in. Now, what a driver and a team and a crew chief wants is the side skirt bent out. It happened when he pulled onto the racetrack for the pace laps. Listen to the radio in their conversation about it.
When you're coming up on the track there, you folded your skirt the left side in there. So I don't know what you can do about that, but definitely fold it in coming up on the track. All right, try it a different way.
And the answer is there's not much Brad Keselowski can do about that. So, Mr. Crew Chief, Mr. Letarte, what would you do about that when you come in on that first stop, and how worried would you be about that side skirt being bent in rather than out?
Well, the first thing I would do is make sure I communicate to NASCAR that I feel I have damage that I need to repair, because they have been very strict about pushing bodies in or pulling them out for an advantage. So make sure NASCAR understands what you're going to do. Hey, I need to repair this. If NASCAR gives me the green light, then my jackman, when he's on the left side, down there with his hands near that area of the skirt anyway, reach down with his right hand, give that skirt a tug. But that's something, Rick, you're going to want permission for. You'll find yourself in the penalty box.
Well, and we have seen where teams have been penalized for pulling those skirts out before. It is a natural occurrence most of the time when the cars come onto the racetrack. This time, it didn't work well.
Well, it went the wrong way. I mean, and they said it happened when they went up onto the racetrack. So from the flat up onto the banking, we're talking just rolling off pit road. These cars are very, very low. We hear them drag all the time on these onboard cameras. You'll hear them make contact with the racetrack. Well, obviously, when that skirt hit, it got bent in. And listen, it seems simple, but competition is so tight. That might be 5 or 10 counts of downforce that Brad Keselowski does not want to give up.
Yeah, so these teams, they're looking to gain any advantage you can. So they've been taught, the drivers have been taught how to get on the racetrack. So you can see Keselowski took a drastic turn climbing up the banking. That is supposed to bend the side skirt out. That's legal. Like, if it gets bent out because of a natural occurrence, that's okay. So they've been taught what to do, but in this case, it got bent the wrong way.
That is how minute of a detail these drivers are working with, trying to get any advantage they can. And right now, everyone trying to find out how they can cut into the advantage that Kyle Busch has already put on this field. NASCAR Drive is NASCAR.com's live race day companion, now available on your mobile device. You can select your favorite camera or driver with in-car video. You can even watch multiple angles at once. Never miss a lap with NASCAR Drive. Visit NASCAR.com/drive from your PC, tablet, or mobile device. There are the spotters up on top of the stands. The spotter coverage brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less on the track and on the road. And right now, they're working.
They are working. It's not just restarts where the cars are very close together as we get into these green flag runs on this old Chicago surface. Jeff, there's going to be cars on the apron, in the middle, by the wall. And as those cars enter and exit the corner, the drivers need to understand where they're all at. You can lose track of the guy you're racing.
Yeah, no question. And then catching lap traffic. Lap traffic is so much slower than the lead lap cars. Those guys have to be letting the drivers really give them information, make them aware of what that slower traffic's doing.
First race of the playoffs, and in simplest terms, the way you advance out of the first round is you win. You win a race, you advance if you're in one of the 16 that is in the playoffs. But only one driver can win, so the rest of them are working for the 60 points that are available per race. There are 60 points out there that are available. Every playoff driver is trying to get as many points as they can.
Yeah, Ray, because after race 3 in the round of 16, guess what? These bottom 4 drivers, the ones you see shaded in red, if that's currently how they are, they're out. The bottom 4 drivers in points will be eliminated. So that's where we need to go back and we look. We see Kyle Busch leading the race, but how about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. currently running in the 19th position? Just in front of him is Casey Kane. A couple spots behind him is Ryan Newman. They're not having the days they probably want, running just around that 20th position. But you have to continue to fight, continue to grind. Marty, every position on the racetrack is a point.
Steve, it's been a struggle of a weekend for the 17 team. They won at Daytona, they won at Talladega to find their way into the playoffs, trying to stay ahead of Dale Earnhardt Jr. there. He started 15th, he's fallen back to 18th right now in the car. Very free for Stenhouse. He said it's an 8 out of 10 free, and it's a little disheartening when you bring all your brand new stuff, your best stuff to the racetrack, Parker, and you run like this.
Right, Marty, and just ahead of him is Casey Kane, who's also had a struggle this weekend, just lacking stability in that 5 car throughout the practices on Friday. As he went into qualifying, they were not even able to make it out of the first round. As you see the 17 get a little bit of the wall there, guys.
Yeah, right up against the wall was Ricky Stenhouse Jr. searching for some of that grip around this racetrack.
But I don't think there was big contact there. The question is just, as long as he doesn't have a tire rub, he should be okay. He didn't hit the wall hard. He kind of just slid against it a little bit.
Look back on what just happened for Stenhouse Jr.
See, just trying to run that top lane. You see the tire marks being left on the wall, so certainly enough contact with the right rear tire. Now you have to be concerned. Did it do any suspension damage? Right there, you see the tire marks being left on the wall.
And Jeff, you know, as a driver, that's that 8 out of 10 loose part right there, right? Not easy to hang on a race car that's that loose.
No, you're right, Marty. And this racetrack, it just is so abrasive on tires. The grip falls off tremendously. We've only run 26 laps, but that is a long time on these tires. So an ill-handling car here on old tires makes it much worse.
And guys, he just came on the radio. He said, I think to be safe, we should pit here. They're kind of talking about the damage like we are, trying to figure out if there's suspension damage in there. But Stenhouse just came on the radio, said, I think to be safe, guys, let's come to pit road. So the guys are getting ready, not coming quite yet.
I agree completely, Rick. This stage is long. It's 80 laps. So you are going to have to pit under green regardless. Even if you get caught by a caution, a lap down, you can race from a lap down. If this 17 does have that tire rub, you don't know. Perhaps it's underneath the sheet metal. Some of the crush panels that seal up the wheel wells, if one of those have come loose and it's cutting a tire, if you go in, cut a tire, and hit the wall, you can't repair that. You're done. That would be a huge blow to the 17's hope. I like the theory of pitting now, repairing it, and making sure you're okay.
Well, and that's the debate right now. Brian Patty just waved that off. The crew chief for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. said, nope, let's stay out there. You see these stages changing the game right here. They're going to try and make it live as long as they can. They're deciding not to pit, even though the driver said, hey, I think it's safer to come down pit road.
The reason that this decision is more difficult is because the 17 car hasn't had the speed to overcome a problem. So if he hits pit road now and it doesn't work out, they may not ever have enough speed to get the positions back.
We'll have to keep our eye on Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Is this decision a good one?
Chicago, 33 laps in the books. Kyle Busch up front, but you're watching Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and they had an issue earlier. We talked about it. They made contact with the wall. Then there was a debate on the radio. Do we come to pit road? Do we not come to pit road? The driver wanted to come to pit road. Brian Patty, as crew chief, said, no, don't come to pit road. But eventually, Stenhouse said, we have to come. I'm telling you, it's getting too tight. And then when they did come to pit road, you see on the left-hand side of your screen, a commitment cone violation. I go back to what he said in countdown to green. Stenhouse said, we cannot afford any mistakes in these playoffs. Coming in as one of the underdogs in the playoffs, they have put themselves in a huge hole here early at Chicago. Right now, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. last in the field, Rick.
Yeah, 2 laps down and not even close to being able to get a free pass because there's quite a few other drivers already that are a lap down, scored way higher than he is. So this is a huge mistake that will definitely count against his possibilities of even transferring into the second round.
Yeah, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. got into the wall doing his job, driving the race car, trying to make speed. While you never want to see that, in my opinion, that's part of racing. But missing that box, why it is a mistake, and humans make mistakes, those are the mistakes that will eliminate you from the playoffs, especially when you look at the 17, a team that we've talked all weekend about needing to be closer to perfect, closer to excellent to move forward. Hard to overcome this, Jeff.
So remember the rule. You have to have all 4 tires below that orange box. That's the rule. He only had 2 below that, so that is the reason for the penalty. The reason it's inexcusable is because you have practice. You practice on this racetrack for 2 days. You have a chance to understand how much speed you can carry to get onto pit road. Making a bad situation worse is a mistake you cannot make on lap 30 of race 1 of the playoffs.
One of the other things, though, you do mention a good point, lap 30. He has a lot of race to possibly make it up if they try different things, if they stay out under a caution, another one comes out, just to try to get those laps back. But he has dug a very deep hole.
If you're going to make a mistake, if you make it early, you do have a chance to recover. You can stay out when other people did. There are ways to get those laps back. There's no doubt about that. The question is, does he have a fast enough car to overcome this set of problems?
Let's go down to Dave with the 18.
A very fast race car now, and still leading this race is Kyle Busch. When he comes to pit road for the first time, a new crew will be taking care of his car this week. It's the former Daniel Suarez crew, and the swap was made purely based on performance. I talked to crew chief Adam Stevens about the switch this week. He said that those guys with Kyle had been with him ever since his Cup career started. JGR, we'll get back to that story, Kelly.
Now you see another playoff contender, Jimmie Johnson, down on pit road. He thought he had a right rear wheel coming loose. He said it was shaking really bad in the corner. Didn't know how long they wanted to wait. They decided to bring him down. 4 fresh Goodyear tires, Marty.
Whatever the reason the 48 pitted, it opened up a wave of cars coming down pit road, and very fortuitous for Martin Truex Jr. and his team. He was coming in through turn 3 when they saw the 48 pit, so Truex came down pit road. His car a little too free, but 4 fresh Goodyear tires, very valuable here at Chicago. Matt Kenseth doing the same thing. They were right behind Truex. They too coming down pit road. I would expect all of these leaders coming down pretty quick.
Tires are that important, so that's why we're seeing everybody dive onto pit road now that we saw the kind of the ice broken with the 48.
And Ricky, after Dale Earnhardt Jr., who was inside the top 20, pitting here for 4 tires, this is what many of the teams talked about doing. They were going to split these stages in half. You also have Kevin Harvick, who pit out in 2nd place. They don't want to be on those old tires too long. He's going to do 4 Goodyear tires, and Sunoco Fuel just struggling a little bit loose on the exits. All as well pitting right now, as we have all these cars coming down, will be the 3 of Austin Dillon, who's running in 10th place. He's going to do 4 tires, and Sunoco Fuel really happy with that race car this time, guys.
You can't make mistakes on pit road or on the racetrack. Well, the 78 just made a mistake. Too fast exiting. So speeding on pit road for Martin Truex Jr. Kelly.
Chase Elliott, who had worked his way up to pit, said that he was just a little bit free from the center off. He was adjusting the track bar. They've made an air pressure adjustment for Goodyear tires, Sunoco Fuel, and he's on his way.
And once again, the 3 of Austin Dillon. He's now caught for speeding, getting onto pit road.
And all of these mistakes are helping Ricky Stenhouse Jr. because remember, he's racing these other cars within the playoffs. Also, this green flag cycle has softened his mistake a little bit. It didn't erase it, but now he's going to end up going from 2 laps down to 1 lap down when everyone cycles.
Just pass through, all the way through.
And so already the mistakes are being amplified by numerous drivers.
And we have another one. 77 of Eric Jones, too fast exiting.
We saw this last year, a tremendous amount of penalties at this race, 11 speeding penalties in this race last year. The timing lines over the previous years have been shortened to try to reduce the advantage of some of the pit boxes. It doesn't allow the drivers as much wiggle room. They have to be closer and more accurate to their speed. Dave?
So, Steve, as we see Kyle Busch coming down pit road, he is the last pit box before he re-enters the track. Adam Stevens, the crew chief, told me that was very important because with a new group of guys working with this crew chief this week, he said we need to be on the same page. So this time right now, you see Adam there. They are confirming exactly what they all talked about, and his crew is getting ready to understand and apply what has been asked of them. It'll be 4 Goodyear tires, an air pressure adjustment for a car that was a little bit free in the middle, a 4-wheel slide, Kyle called it, and a Phillips Sunoco Fuel. Also on pit road, his teammate Denny Hamlin. He keeps his pit crew this week. Hamlin has had a pretty good race car so far. A little snug in, a little loose off of turn 4 for the 11.
Kyle Busch, after his pit stop, as well as Denny Hamlin, those cycle through. Landon Cassill's actually scored as the race leader. He's been on the racetrack without coming to pit road yet. But there goes the 4 of Kevin Harvick. Harvick now scored in the 3rd position.
He made it to ground. He pitted quite a few laps before Kyle Busch did, so he was out there. He was 4.6 seconds behind when this pit stop sequence started, and now he's cut that to about 1 second. So pitting earlier, getting on newer tires sooner, allowed him to close the ground.
Once the pit stops continue to cycle through, it'll be Kyle Busch back out front. Martin Truex Jr. after the penalty on pit road, he is relegated back to 16th. A week ago, after the ending that the regular season, you would have thought there would have been elation. It was no smiles for Martin Truex Jr. He was hoping to switch that around at the start of the playoffs, but right now things haven't gone his way. It's Monster Energy Cup Series racing from Chicagoland Speedway. First race of the playoffs. Now let's go down to the Toyota Camry on-track car with Rutledge Wood.
You know, Rick, the name of the game is all about getting these cars as close to the ground as you can. Steve Letarte knows that firsthand. When you look at the splitter, that's what you got to do. Get this car down on the track as much as you can. What we saw with Brad Keselowski is that side skirt, again, trying to get the car as low as you can with that downforce package. What happens when he moved onto the track, this little spot here after the cutoff for the jack, this is actually what caught and pushed in because the force of the car moving up that angle difference. It sounds like the team has fixed it on the 2 car during that pit stop. But Steve, how often does something like that ever happen when you're trying to get the car as low as you can all the way around every single time you get to it?
Well, you're right, Rutledge. It does happen often, but as Jeff pointed out earlier, the teams and the drivers have found a way that they always seem to bend in the correct direction. They're constructed that way. That's wise. That's taking advantage of the situation. Unfortunately, for the 2 that went the wrong way. But we asked Marty during the break, and you look at that left rear behind the jack post now, it looks perfect. It looks pulled out. Marty said they reached down, put a little tug. Now it looks like every other car on the racetrack.
So the flaring out of the side skirt for the 2 was a concern at the start of this race. It had gone the wrong way, and now it is going the right way. Marty.
And guys, they did fix that side skirt a moment ago when Brad Keselowski came down pit road. Braxton Brannon, the jackman for the 2 car, reached down and just pulled it out just enough. So they did get it fixed, Steve. So good job by your pit crew, Mr. Crew Chief.
That's the idea. It's more than just changing the tires, Rick. You have to be able to adapt, do whatever has to be done. But Jeff, we talk about it all the time. Speed can overcome about everything. You mentioned about the 17 and how hard it was going to be to overcome. Well, here are the playoff drivers that had penalties. Austin Dillon, too fast. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was a commitment line. The 78 of Martin Truex Jr. also too fast. The big difference is the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. currently running in the 13th position on the lead lap. His car is so fast, and he was running so far or so close to the leader that he was able to save his lap, where Austin Dillon and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. are both currently 1 lap down. Marty?
And Steve, a lot of conversation on the radio between Cole Pearn and Martin Truex Jr. about that speeding penalty. Martin wanted to know what section it was in. It was section 14, so he made a note for himself. They were 50.06. 0.06 over the speed limit on pit road. That's it. So, Jeff, I guess I want to ask you as a driver, how do you then adjust to compensate for that 6/100ths of a mile an hour that he was over on speed?
Well, you have to look at your lights and you have to trust them, but you just know what didn't work. So you're just going to have to be conservative. You're going to have to back the light off a little bit, burn 1 less light. Remember, there's lights on the dash, digital dashboard, and they follow those lights. And if you have 4 red burning or 3 red, every driver does something different. That's your cue that that's where he's supposed to be. He's going to have to show 1 less light, and that's the only thing you can do. You have to be more conservative.
Well, and Jeff, the segment in which he was speeding, NASCAR lets you know that. His was the last segment on pit road. So perhaps the other thing he did is, you have to cross that yellow line. Well, maybe he just saw the yellow line. We're talking 3, 4, 5. That's a little early. Yeah, just a little early. Quite like a drag racing, he red lighted. He got on the gas just a little early.
Another driver that's below the cut line right now, the 31 of Ryan Newman, and Newman running 21st right now. Dave?
And Rick, early in the run, that car was very, very loose. By the end of the run, Ryan's additional comment was fully on top of the track right now. Steve, what does he mean by that? Or Jeff, you had to drive him that way sometimes.
Yep, that's part of it. I mean, there's just all you can do, though, at this point is you just have to grind it out, and that's what this team does so well, is they find a way to grind out. It'll be interesting to see where they end up when this race is over. So many times we see them behind, but if they're going to move forward, Steve, they're going to have to finish in the way they're running. They can't afford to have any bad races.
Well, yeah, I mean, consistently he has found a way to get finishes, but it seems like at some point that luck has got to run out, Rick. You have to find a way to have a faster race car, but I've been saying that about Ryan Newman my entire career. So he's made a career of it. Will he be able to continue? We're just going to have to wait and see.
Hey guys, I was just seeing you talk about pit road speeding on the 78. Remember, the 3 also sped on pit road, but his issue was a little bit different. He said when he came across the radio that his lights were jumping around so bad that he couldn't stay on the light that he wanted to be on. And Jeff, I know you've gotten into lights there a little bit, but that's another problem, is if they're not smooth, if the engine isn't smooth, then you definitely can't get to the pit road speed you want.
Yeah, so what happens, Parker, is if the engine's not running smoothly, you can imagine the tachometer is actually jumping up and down, so it doesn't have a consistent, steady state. So when you're trying to when you're trying to look at the tach and look at one small thing and it's jumping up and down, you can't do it. It's impossible to be consistent because the tach's literally jumping up and down 400, 500, 600 RPMs. You can't be consistent.
And again, a reminder, they don't have speedometers. They have tachometers. So they don't have just a set speedometer that tells them this is how fast you go.
That'd be too easy, Rick. We don't want speedometers. We want it to be a challenge.
Yeah, well, listen, Kyle Busch, he's not had any of these problems. Kyle Busch he's just got a 3.5-second lead over Kevin Harvick, but look who's directly in front of him right now. Another playoff contender, the 5 car of Casey Kane, but then just ahead of him, the red and white car, the first red and white car, the 21 car, Ryan Blaney, another playoff contender. Kyle Busch sees these guys in his windshield, and I can promise you his mission right now is to put these guys a lap down.
That car is so fast, the 18 car, and when I talked to Adam Stevens about that qualifying lap that was almost 2 miles an hour faster than any other car, he said, I didn't think anybody could do that. The one thing they did work on, though, was that some front-end speed that they needed to give up a little bit for this car at the end of the longer runs. So that was a little bit that they knew was going to be ill handling for Kyle at the beginning of the run to maybe make up some at the end, but I haven't seen any weakness in this car yet, guys.
Maybe Brad Keselowski was onto something, as now the 18 of Kyle Busch has put everyone other than the top 15 a lap down. Only 15 cars on the lead lap. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Monster Energy. Unleash the beast. Toyota. Let's go places. Subway restaurants. And by Credit One Bank, the official credit card of NASCAR. Chicago, definitely one of the greatest sports cities in America. And the fans have shown up. They have camped out, and they have enjoyed already 68 of the scheduled 267 laps from Chicagoland Speedway. An overcast day here as Kyle Busch has been the dominant force out front 66 of the 68 laps. Only Landon Castle, who was out for 2 laps in front because of staying out under green flag pit stops, led any of the laps other than Kyle Busch. Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, and Denny Hamlin of the other playoff drivers, they're running in the top 4. Then it's Joey Logano running in 5th. Brad Keselowski, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Larson, Daniel Suarez, and Jimmy Johnson are the top 10. Want to get a few updates, and we'll start with Parker.
Guys, ever since Kevin Harvick joined that 4 car in Stewart-Haas Racing, every time they've come in the playoffs, they came in with a mindset that if a race went bad, it didn't matter because the next week they would win. They had the speed to do that. But as they entered this playoffs, they have not felt as confident in the speed of their race cars. Although they've been on a bit of an upswing, they weren't sure that they had the speed to compete against the Toyotas. So they've started to think more strategically, knowing they need to get points in these stages, knowing they need to find ways to maximize these races when they don't have the best car. And that's what they're doing right now. They don't feel they have the best car compared to the 18, but they're running in second and doing a good job at it. Kelly?
Well, Parker, with all the issues on pit road, it was smooth sailing for the 24 team, and now Chase Elliott is up another 2 positions to crack that top 3. Remember, he's still looking for his first ever Cup win. He won here at Chicagoland in the Xfinity Series, and last year led 75 laps, but ultimately finished 3rd. Well, his crew chief, Alan Gustafson, had a lot of confidence today. He told me this is the best car they've brought to a track, and sometimes strong in all aspects. Good run, short run, long run, good drivability. This is a team that definitely thinks they have a shot at victory lane today, Dave.
Kelly, Denny Hamlin in traffic right now. The car is just a little bit tough to turn. And remember, this is the second and final week of suspension for Mike Wheeler, his crew chief. But don't worry, the replacement, Chris Gabehart, won this race as race engineer a couple years back with Denny Hamlin. They haven't missed a beat. Marty?
Dave, what kind of pace is Kyle Busch setting today? He's about to put down a lap, his 6th playoff car, and that's right in front of him. Kurt Busch, his brother, is about to be passed here in a moment. Kurt's been struggling with a race car that's been extremely loose. He said, I need some rear grip. They were very good in the test here a couple of weeks ago, but brought a brand new race car, and they have just struggled with it so far this weekend. Kind of went back to where they were with the test, and there you see that loose coming off the corner, and there goes little brother about to put him down a lap. Amazing, isn't it, Rick? 6 playoff drivers. Kyle Busch is going to put a lap down here.
Well, the last time they went around, it was only 0.3 of a second that Kyle Busch was faster than his brother Kurt Busch, but those continue to add up. It's 0.3 of a second here, half a second there. Maybe they get into lap traffic. That slows some of the cars down. And so right now, because Kurt Busch just went a lap down, there are only 12 cars on the lead lap, and it has been a flawless race up to this point for Kyle Busch.
You mentioned how lap times add up. Well, you know what else adds up is points. And Martin Truex Jr. on the right side of the screen has recovered from that speeding penalty to get back to 10th. What does 10th matter? Well, here in 6 more laps, that'll be the last position that is awarded any points at the end of the stage. Martin Truex Jr. has a big lead. He might not need the point, but you know who would like to have it? Jimmie Johnson. That's the car he just eliminated from the top 10. Marty?
Well, and Steve, trust me, he wants those points. Even though it came in with 53, 20 more playoff points than anyone else, he told me we're treating it as if we're at 0. Those 53 points are our savings account in case we need anything during the playoffs here. And you're watching this battle as Kurt Busch trying to stay in front of his brother on the left-hand side of his screen. But for the 78 team, they're worried about pit road. Here's further conversation about that speeding penalty last time.
We were pretty conservative on our speeds. It was just that last segment. You know, set the short one. I don't know if we just hit the gas a little bit early leaving or what, but everywhere else was, you know, plenty conservative. Didn't think I did, but...
And knowing they're going to have to pit at the end of this stage here, you can believe, as Jeff said a moment ago, that 78 Martin Truex Jr. going to be a lot more conservative this time on pit road with the speed.
Conservative. The one thing he's got going for him is he had a huge lead to start the playoffs. Because of all the playoff points that he was able to accumulate during the regular season, he had a 50-point lead over the last place in the playoffs at the start of this race. So remember, there's only 60 points that can be gained in one race. 60 total points are out there, and Martin Truex Jr. started with a 50-point lead over 16.
Over 16, but not over 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So he doesn't want to give spots up to Kyle Larson, to Kyle Busch, to Keselowski, to Johnson Harvick. He doesn't want to finish behind those guys because now he's relinquishing that point lead that he has over those guys.
And it looks as though Kyle Busch has decided he's going to just stay behind his brother, because it looked as though Kurt was going to go a lap down. He didn't. I had mentioned that he was, but there are still 13 cars on the lead lap, and Kurt Busch is the last car on the lead lap. It's a matter of, will his brother put him a lap down? Will he go by him? And just under 2 laps to go in this stage.
Well, we might be in the city of brotherly love, but I'm not sure there's much brotherly love between these two, because Kyle Busch is a competitor, and I think he wants to eliminate the 41, although he's having a little bit of trouble. So we'll see. We'll see if he goes by.
Hey, Steve, one of the things he was checking was the gap back to 2nd place Kevin Harvick when he came up upon his brother there. So as long as it was staying just above 4 seconds, he seemed comfortable.
Never good at geography, Rick.
It's the Windy City. Let's go with the Windy City here in Chicago. And he's going to stay behind him. This is a final lap. Now, if he would go past him, his brother would be eligible for the free pass, because a caution we know is going to come out as soon as the 10th place driver goes by the finish line in this stage. But Kyle Busch, what a perfect stage he has put together. He will win stage 1 at Chicagoland. Already the 12th stage win for Kyle Busch on the 2017 season. And drivers fighting for those stage points. Martin Truex Jr. currently holding the 10th spot. He will be, if he can keep that position, the last one to gain any points from this first stage. And that's the name of the game in the playoffs. They want to gain as many points as they possibly can, and that's exactly what Kyle Busch has been able to do in stage 1. He has gained the most points. He led 78 of the 80 laps in stage 1, and he gets the first win. Win the 43 car now through October 3rd. Hustle over to any participating stores, grab some Smithfield, Nathan's, or Anchorage products, and get entered to win a replica of the 43's iconic 1970 Superbird. For details, go to wintheking.com. Crews up on the wall anticipating their cars coming down for these pit stops. It will be the first yellow flag pit stops of the race. The first stage went caution-free.
So we've seen a rash of penalties. Who's to say we're not going to see more? I think that right now, every crew chief, every spotter let the drivers know a lot of penalties. You've got to be careful on this pit stop.
Marty.
Brad Keselowski comes to pit road running 6. Rick, he said we were really good at the start of the run, but then I got too tight 2/3 the way through the corner, so they're going to make an adjustment for that. He said I'm afraid to go too big on that adjustment because I think the track is going to loosen up. Kelly.
Chase Elliott's been happy with his race car and said it has good drive off. His only concern, it fires off just a little bit tight. I didn't hear any call for changes for Goodyear Tires Sunoco fuel, Parker.
Rodney Childers told Kevin the other cars are speeding at the end of pit lane. Be careful. Also, he was the fastest car those last 4 laps. Pretty happy with just a little loose off the corner, 4 tires for Sunoco fuel, Dave.
Kyle's crew took a deep breath. They were put on this crew because they were statistically better than the others, and they have a nice, clean stop.
Yeah, the race off pit road brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2 video game shows that it was clean and he held position. Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick came onto pit road first and second. They left pit road first and second. So far, the 18 team has done everything that has been asked of them. He won the pole in dominating fashion. He dominated stage number 1. And now let's see if we can chat with him.
Hey, Kyle, it's Burton up in the booth. You got us?
Yes, sir. How's it going?
It's going great up here. Looks like it's going even better down there. How's it so far?
It's pretty good. These guys have done a great job for me with this Skittles Squeaky Camry. It's feeling really nice, so been good to be up front here so far, and hopefully we can keep it there. So we'll just keep working on it, keep making sure we keep up with the racetrack, and do our best.
I know we spoke this morning. You were a little concerned about long run speed, but sure looked like you made the changes to not have that problem. What do you think you're going to have to do to change the car as this race goes on?
Yeah, we were really concerned about long run speed stuff yesterday and not being able to have it. So certainly I feel like we've improved on that. And, yeah, I think the biggest thing is just keep up with the racetrack. And as the rubber went down there, that run, it seemed to tighten up. So, you know, that's probably a little bit of a trend we'll see for the rest of the day.
All right, Kyle, thanks for taking some time, bud. Good luck.
Thank you.
Marty.
And Jeff, yes, this is Martin Truex Jr. back on pit road for a second time. They only got 3 lug nuts tight on the right rear, so they're also going to make a chassis adjustment here in the left rear as well. But they sped on the first stop of the day. Pit crew leaves lug nuts off on the second stop of the day, so he'll have to fight his way back through the field one more time in that 78.
Uncharacteristic for the 78 team as they have struggled a few times already in stage 1, but again, they've got the playoff points that they can lean on in this first round. Kyle Busch continues to lead the tails of the Turtles, 400. Getting ready for stage 2 to get underway, but first let's go to Rutledge Wood.
Rick, I'm always looking for that one place to try to watch the race from, and I tell you what, it is right back here on the backstretch, right outside of turn 2. I'm here on the Skyline Terrace, where my friends at Skittles are out here. They got a show car, great place for their fans to watch. But you can see everything. Look at the pace car right up there. Oh, Rick, I also cracked the code, that tweet you couldn't figure out. Apparently it was Skittles taste freaking unbelievable. That's what Kyle Busch was saying to Brad Keselowski. So problem solved, guys. You're welcome.
Thank you for that acronym, RUT. We really appreciate that. It has been already a great start, obviously, for Kyle Busch, as he was able to not only win the pole, but then go out and dominate from the start of the race. Had upwards of a 3-second lead over second place. It's Kevin Harvick who is now in that second spot. Denny Hamlin is running in third. Chase Elliott and Joey Logano are the top 5.
Joey Logano, he's the guy with no green in the window, no green in the splitter, signifying he's not in the playoffs. But don't forget about me. That's what he keeps saying. He was in that kind of funk over the summer. Best way to get out of it, win a race.
And a really good first stage for Chase Elliott and his team also. Very solid. That's what that team needs.
Here comes the field as they approach the Geico restart zone. Logano's going to try the apron to get an advantage on the 11 of Denny Hamlin. Kevin Harvick takes the lead away from Kyle Busch. Now the question will be, how will the 18 run when he doesn't have the clean air that he had for pretty much the entire stage 1 where he was out front?
That's a great point, Rick. All the adjustments on that car were made with clean air. They know how that car drove, not really behind anybody. Kevin Harvick with muscle in that restart. That's going to drive the decision of where to restart for the leader. So the leader just picked the bottom and got beaten on the outside. So the next time, watch where the leader lines up.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about Toyotas, Rick, but when you look at the scoreboard, Ford, Toyota, Chevy, Ford, Toyota, Chevy, the top 6 split evenly through the 3 manufacturers.
Take another look at the restart.
We talk about how important track position is. That makes restarts important. You can see there's no question Kyle Busch got a great start, but Chase Elliott actually pushing the 4 of Kevin Harvick just a little bit, and Kevin Harvick just with muscle on the outside lane, more grip, pulls a little bit of air off the side of the 18 car, gets him out of the racetrack, and easily clears Kyle Busch.
So Kevin Harvick is out front, Kyle Busch running second. As we see the 78 of Mark Truex Jr. trying to take the shortcut.
Well, and that 78, remember, it was reported by Marty they came in a second time to tighten some lug nuts. While he didn't really lose many actual positions on the racetrack, he was already close to the last car in the lead lap. What he did lose is a lot of track position, because with the second time on pit road, he had to start behind all the lap down cars as well. He loses the ability to pull up and race with the lead lap cars. That's what he's working through right now.
And Steve, one thing they did when he was on pit road here is they took a little extra time. Cole Pearn making the College C2X shoot down the apron, and all those cool sparks fly up. They've been very free with this car. So while it was on pit road, they had the extra time. They put a spring rubber in the left rear spring to tighten up that race car. And I know as a crew chief, when you have time like that, you take time to fix the car, don't you, Steve?
Well, it's race management. I think all of these crew chiefs understand that as we get past the end of the second stage, in that final stage, you can't give up track position. You can't make big adjustments. So if there's any sort of inkling that it needs to be done, do it when you have the time.
How hard is he on the spring when he comes and slams down on the apron when he came across the start-finish line the last 2 times?
Well, it's built for that. And you see those sparks. I don't think those should be of any concern. That's either a wear block or perhaps the right side skirt that's metal around the exhaust pipe, but they're always fun to watch.
And why does he do that? It's the shortest way around the racetrack. It's just quite simply, he's just making the front straightaway shorter, turns left, gets underneath the guy, and takes the spot.
Geometry, Rick. I'm better at geometry than geography.
They both start with G. Kevin Harvick is out front as Mark Truex Jr. currently running in the 13th position. There are only 16 cars that are on the lead lap, and of those 16, there are 5 that are non-playoff contenders. For some updates on non-playoff contenders, let's start with Dave.
The 22 car of Joey Logano, of course, very disappointed that he did not make the playoffs this year. Talked to his crew about how he would help the 2, and it was something you've heard before. We'll work with them during practice to maybe try something that they'd like to see on a similar car, but when it comes to race time, that is about us. The 22 is on their own program when it comes to trying to win. As for the 19 of Daniel Suarez, it's a little bit different. Talked to Scott Graves, his crew chief, this morning, and he told me that we don't typically run what the other JGR cars are running, and so we're kind of on our own island there. That's the way it'll run for us, and we'll just try to make Daniel the best he can be as he finishes out his rookie season.
Daniel Suarez just behind the 21 of Ryan Blaney. He's the first car a lap down, running 17th right now. And When the charter system happened with NASCAR and teams were given charters, a lot of people scratch their head and go, wait a second, Wood Brothers, they've been in the sport forever. Why do they not get a charter? Well, they didn't run a consistent schedule for a few years. Well, now they're in the playoff system for the first time. The Wood Brothers are doing the playoffs now for the first time. Dave.
We talked about how for the 18, the crew swap could be a much bigger improvement for the 18, but it also lends to some possibilities, maybe some nerves working for the first time for a different crew. And this time it may have bit them. A loose wheel being reported by the driver of the 18. He'll come down pit road. They'll change all four, make sure they're all tight on this 18 car, the Stage 1 winner.
That is a huge moment for the 18. He has the speed to recover, but Dave just reported it. The crew swap, it was done because the statistics said that this crew was better. They had a clean first stop, but obviously has a mistake now. Where's the confidence in that pit crew?
Adam Stevens on top of the pit box for the 18 team and in charge of that crew. Parker.
Guys, also pitting in the Toyota camp is Eric Jones in the 77. He's got a right rear tire rub right now. They're trying to figure that out. It's been super tight here. Looks like maybe he got in the wall or whatever, but they're definitely going to pull that right rear fender out right now, place those tires, and get him back on the racetrack right here. But unfortunate result there for the 77.
And we talked about mistakes being made. Another one made by a playoff team, the 18 team, over the wall too soon.
And you see it. You see the look on crew chief Adam Stevens' face. He can't believe it. A loose wheel and now another penalty.
Dave.
Oh, and there's more going on. Down in the garage area, NASCAR has taken a couple of teams to, I can only call it the blue tent because it is a blue tent. They've taken their tires and wheels inside to check them over. And one of the crew told me that this is on the 18, by the way, and the 78. You can see the crew members standing there. This is not routine. Steve, you'll be able to detail a little bit more what things NASCAR may be looking for. But, guys, it's the playoffs, and the scrutiny is very much tighter. The officials followed the guys all the way down from the head of pit road in the 18 pit.
Well, I look at those tires and I see that they're all wet. That tells me that what NASCAR is doing is he's taking those tires and submerging them in water to make sure air isn't coming out anywhere. If you want to have an advantage when it comes to tires, you don't want that air pressure to build up. The best way to do, just like a leaky balloon, stuff it down in your pool. If you see any bubbles, it's leaking air. You take a Goodyear tire, mount it on a wheel. It's one big unit. You dunk it down in a big bucket of water. If you see bubbles where there shouldn't be any, that could be big trouble for a race team.
A huge advantage if you could intentionally leak air is you could start with air pressure higher, have better restarts, and then that air would leak out the way you would design it to leak out, and the air pressure would stay low on a long run, so you get the best of both worlds. But of course, that's against the rules. NASCAR doesn't allow that.
And we have not heard yet of any violation. They have not found anything. Apparently, they were just checking on it. So now the 18 is serving the violation that they had as far as the pit crew member coming over the wall too soon. And so the 18 on pit road again after winning stage 1. Multiple issues with the 18 have relegated them back a couple laps down now.
And Steve's point about, you know, he switched these teams, and it's become routine to take the best team within a company and put them on the car that has the best chance to win the playoffs. If they're not already on a playoff team, that's what happened here. This isn't the first time that this has happened. But now when you did that, you had 2 mistakes in the first race of the playoffs. How do they handle that pressure? How do they recover?
So the 18 back out on track, but right now Kyle Busch being scored 27th.
And Rick, back to the tire, checking of the tires. NASCAR knows that this is the playoffs, and they know that every team is going to be trying to step up to bring their best performance. It's their job to make sure that people aren't doing things out of bounds, that people are within the rules. So they've stepped up the scrutiny. They're stepping up, making sure that the teams are staying within these rules.
And the 18 passing by the 11, which is a teammate of Joe Gibbs Racing. But again, the 18 of Kyle Busch, 2 laps down, currently running 30th. Kevin Harvick out in front at Chicagoland. This beautiful aerial view of the expansive Chicagoland Speedway, brought to you by our partners at Smithfield Foods. They've been very philanthropic, most recently Smithfield Foods committed $100,000, matched employee contributions 2-to-1, and donated more than 300,000 pounds of protein to Hurricane Harvey relief efforts through its Helping Hungry Homes initiative. Since 2010, Smithfield has provided nearly 80 million servings of protein through this program. And everyone continuing to think about those that have been impacted by the hurricanes, both in Texas and in Florida. You can donate online at redcross.org. And again, a great crowd here on hand at Chicagoland as they watch Kevin Harvick make his way around this 1.5-mile track. Harvick, one of the racetracks that he has won at before multiple times, 2 times a winner here at this track, but it's been 15 years since the last time he went to Victory Lane at Chicagoland back in 2002. But Kevin Harvick now one of the drivers that hasn't had to deal with mistakes up to this point. A lot of playoff drivers have had to deal with it, including the 18 of Kyle Busch.
And there he is in the picture. If he can get by Kevin Harvick right here, he will put himself back in the lead lap. So a little bit fresher tire. Obviously, when they pitted to fix the wheel, they changed those tires, so a little bit fresher tires.
He's 2 laps down. He'll get back to being 1 lap down. So with the multiple mistakes that the 18 had to endure.
So, Rick, that's a big difference because at 1 lap down, there are a lot of options. You can get the wave around. You could stay out and perhaps just get your lap back that way under a yellow. So it's very important. But let's go back. You talk about those mistakes the 18 had. Well, the first one was the loose wheel, but here he is coming in to correct the loose wheel. And you see he is more than 1 box away, and there are feet on the ground, which is an issue. The unique thing about this is that is the gas man. He's allowed to normally be over 3 pit boxes away if he's gassing the car, but look at him. He has no gas can in his hand. They do that for safety. They don't want him holding a 100-pound gas can trying to jump over instantly. So the fact that he was on the ground more than 1 box away was a penalty in this situation. He really didn't even have a role in that pit stop. So that is a costly penalty for the 18, but he did get by the 4 car, putting him only 1 lap down. Dave.
And you talk about the communication now between crew chief Adam Stevens and his new crew. Adam told me earlier this week he told this group what to expect out of Kyle as a driver. He said he's not going to pump you up and praise you when you do a great job, and he's not going to tear you down when you do a bad job. I had the radio on the entire time after all of that. No terse words from the driver. Recently, an update, the condition of the race car, and that was it.
So it all started with they thought they had a loose wheel. They brought him onto pit road. They made a mistake. So then with that mistake, it compounded the fact that he went 2 laps down. But fresher tires and where he came out on the track enabled him to get by the 4. So he's now just 1 lap down. But he's behind a lot of cars that are a lap down. Because right now Kyle Busch is running in the 26th position. And the highest scored lap down car is Landon Castle running 14th.
Well, and this is the perfect example. You see on the left side of your screen, he was still 24 points to the good. Well, that is single-handedly a result of those 29 playoff points that he carried into the postseason. Without those playoff points, this would be a much bigger deal for the 18. But I talked about this on the pre-race show with Kyle Petty and Dale Jarrett Cristavoda. Pitting a race car for Daniel Suarez in the 9th or 10th position has pressure, but nowhere near the pressure or the microscope of pitting a car like Kyle Busch's with the race lead. We talk about playoff pressure. There's also different pressure from where you're running on the racetrack 1st, 10th, 20th.
Brad Keselowski has been very boisterous this weekend as far as speed. Well, right now, he's running 3rd on the racetrack. Want to listen in to spotter communication from the 2 teams.
88 to an 88. 50% line out back. Gets a longer run or a better run exiting, but you get him on the entry. He does gain ground running that higher lane, though. Get you down like James Brown. Get you down. Just need to be aggressive and get by these guys. Then 4.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less. It is Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, and Brad Keselowski. They're the top 3, driving a Ford, a Chevy, and a Ford in front of the Toyota of Denny Hamlin running 4th.
We saw this yesterday, Rick. Eric Jones, he was the Xfinity race winner. Surely he was going to be. He was the fastest car here. He didn't win. Junior Motorsports teammates ran up front. Justin Allgaier won the race. Races must be won. They don't hand out trophies just for being fast. You have to execute and run the entire distance.
Marty.
And Rick, if you'll notice, Brad Keselowski now up in the third position, running much better on this run. He told Paul Wolf a moment ago the changes you made have made it much better. And Steve, the clouds have also come over the racetrack, kind of changing the way the racetrack is handling a little bit. And I see pit crews stirring as well. So some teams thinking about maybe short pitting here, getting tires on, could be a big advantage at a rough racetrack like Chicago.
Yeah, I expect these teams to try to split this 80-lap run in the middle, but the unique thing is, with a few of the cautions at the end of stage 1, the start of this second stage, they're only running their 33rd lap on this set of tires. So with 41 to go, I expect to see cars on pit road in probably 3 or 4 laps, Marty. And as you said, it's just a huge advantage. We saw Kevin Harvick do it in the first stage. He beat Kyle Busch to pit road by just a handful of laps, 2 or 3 laps, and made up almost 4 seconds.
And then on the restart, it was the 4 of Kevin Harvick that has been able to get out front. Past the 18 for Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has had some issues, not only on pit road, but also with when they put the wheel on. They think the team thinks it might not have got it completely tight, so he had a loose wheel. Now it's Kevin Harvick out in front of Chase Elliott. Now Chase Elliott running second. A lot of people may be looking at this as a surprise. Chase Elliott was down quite a bit lower in the playoff rankings when this started. And now Chase Elliott running up in the second position. Chase Elliott has never won a race in the Monster Energy Cup Series. Could he win and automatically catapult himself into the round of 12?
Well, right now he has the fastest car on the racetrack. He, the last 6 or 7 laps, has had the fastest car. He's run Kevin Harvick down from a little bit behind, and once he got to him, he's had a little bit of problem continuing to close the gap, losing a little bit of aero on that car because Kevin Harvick's taken all of it. So now he's got to start looking around, trying to find places to run on the racetrack where Kevin Harvick isn't.
Marty.
As advertised, Matt Kenseth the first to come to pit road, so we'll see if this gives the 20 an advantage. Struggling with the handling of the race car. He said it's absolutely plowing through the middle of the corners. You see the wedge adjustment, also a big air pressure adjustment, trying to free up that 20 car as it changed with the weather. 78 coming this time as well, guys.
78 under control when he gets to the commitment line as the 20 is going off of pit road. And again, speeding penalties have been all over the track today. Marty.
And Rick, let's see if the regular season champ can have a clean stop. Remember on stop number 1 of the day, it was on the driver. He had an issue speeding in the last section of pit road. Stop number 2 on the crew. They have lug nuts loose on the right rear. A little bit of a slow stop for that 78, Parker.
As a 5-car, Casey Kane has not had the best day, but it's been a forward-moving day. A little bit too loose right now. It's to be 4 Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel, marching forward, but just recently gone a lap down.
And Chase Elliott, the 24-car, pits from the second position. He's been really happy with this race car today. The only thing he asked for was a drink bottle, Parker.
Guys, your leader, Kevin Harvick, just pitted 4 Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel. As the 24 is catching him, the reason was, as the 24 beats him out, was that he was getting too loose on the exit of both ends. It was getting worse every lap, losing the handle on that 4 car. They made an adjustment.
And we'll see the race off of pit road now as we see the 24 and the 4 accelerate. They'll have to blend when they come off of turn 2, and it looks like the 24 is going to have the advantage. On pit road, the 24 of Chase Elliott actually was starting to move to the inside of the 4 when he was coming up to his pit stall. So the 24 looked like he had a better stop than the 14.
Well, check this out. Coming to pit road, look at the gap between the 4 and the 24. Look how good of a job Chase Elliott did gaining on Kevin Harvick. I mean, he was 10 car lengths back. He came on the pit road on his rear bumper. So great job by Chase Elliott. That is why they got that lead. The pit crew did a good job also, but Chase Elliott narrowing that gap. Terrific job.
And as you mentioned, they have the lead now as the pit stops have cycled through. As far as the drivers that were on the lead lap, it's Chase Elliott who's out in front at Chicagoland. Can the 21-year-old get his first Monster Energy Cup Series win today?
Busch is leaving pit road at Chicagoland Speedway, still not on the lead lap, trying to recover with the 18 car after mistakes early. The car just not handling quite the way he wanted to. A 4-tire stop and a full load of Sunoco fuel. Rick, back upstairs to you.
Thank you, Dave. And you can gear up with the pit crew and get the latest NASCAR t-shirts, hats, and die-casts at the NASCAR shop. Visit NASCAR.com/shop. Pay for all your favorite drivers' gear. And The 24 of Chase Elliott, also taking that shortcut through the apron, right along the front stretch. It is Chase Elliott out in front of Kevin Harvick by 1.2 seconds.
Well, this is Chase Elliott's second playoff appearance, and I think that makes a huge difference. Your first playoff appearance, nerves are really high. He's been there, done that now. And Steve, I think a huge opportunity for Chase Elliott is to use that pedigree that he has around him. Hendrick Motorsports has many championships. His dad, Bill Elliott, has championships. Use those guys help you through these playoffs.
Chase Elliott, obviously from a family of racers. His father, Bill Elliott, was a champion back in 1988, multiple-time winner and a Hall of Famer. And the question always comes up, is it forced upon these drivers, these young drivers, to be a part of the sport? Here's Chase's response.
His only concern and advice was go talk to Mom. That was what he always said. And so, you know, Mom always wanted me to play golf. That was her first her first thing. But no, she was really okay with it and has always been pretty supportive of racing, very supportive of racing. Both of them have. But I feel like one thing about my parents that I've had a lot of respect for that oftentimes you don't see is I think it's easy to push kids into doing things that maybe the parents want you to do or want to see you do. For me, my parents have always given me the choice, and at any point, even today, if I went home and said, Dad, I don't really want to race anymore, I just don't want to do this anymore, it'd be fine, be no hard feelings, we'd go on down the road and do something else, and that's the way I've always felt over the years, and I've always had a lot of respect for Mom and Dad because of that, and they've always given me that choice.
Bill Elliott's found it just an amazing balance of being there for Chase, but yet you don't see him around the racetrack in the picture much. So you know he's somewhere, either watching from home or watching here in person, available by phone, available to speak in person, but done a really nice job giving him what he needs for advice and yet space at the same time.
And it would have been much easier for Bill and Cindy Elliott for Chase not to be a race car driver. I mean, it's a huge sacrifice. You know, I've seen Bill at a lot of late model racetracks around the country. I mean, it takes a lot when you have a kid that wants to race, and they both supported him hugely. I can promise you, they're not twisting his arm making him do this.
Well, let's go to a special nonstop brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2 video game.
With all three series, we knew it was game over. We're competitors, and this is very important.
Sometimes the competition with Brad gets a little intense.
One more.
One more time.
One more. One more race? Sure. There's nothing wrong with a little healthy competition. What time is it?
Time for another truck race.
All right, let's go.
Available now wherever video games are sold.
Rated E for everyone.
Chase Elliott has a 1.4-second lead over Kevin Harvick. Kyle Larson running third, Brad Keselowski is fourth, and Martin Truex Jr. has battled back and now running in the fifth position. Martin Truex Jr. speeding. They did some adjustments to the left side of the car, and already he has been able to rebound and make it back into the top five. Want to go through the field? Brought to you by Carl's Jr. Let's start with Kelly.
And wouldn't it be something if Chase Elliott could pick up his first career win in the first race of the playoffs here? Well, it was interesting when I talked to his crew chief, Alan Gustafson, about their playoff strategy. He said, you know, it's funny. At first, I just thought we'd come out here and hope to have a solid day. But then when we found out how good our race car is, we decided, man, we've got to go for the win. And if we can continue to have cars like this, we'll continue to go for the wins. They've got a lot of points to make up on some of the other competitors in this playoffs, Parker.
Guys, Kevin Harvick riding second right now. May have lost the lead to Chase Elliott under those pit stops, but he seems to be gaining that back, and I'm not surprised. After talking to his crew chief, Ronnie Childers, this morning, I asked him, what is the strength of your race team? He said, we're best when we're on the offensive, when we're going for it. We're absolutely trying to track someone down or making moves on a restart. That's when Kevin's at his best, and that's when we're best as a race team, and that's what he's doing right now. I'll be looking to see if he can run that 24 down on the long run, Kelly.
Yeah, just behind Kevin Harvick is last week's winner in Kyle Larson. Well, that was a big win. It got him 5 more bonus points for the win in the playoffs. Also, they beat Kyle Busch for second in the regular season standings, which gave him an additional point. But the biggest thing to that win, his crew chief told me that they won at Richmond. They felt like that was probably the last track that they'd get a win at. He called that a big boost in the arm and expects that confidence to carry across these mile-and-a-half tracks they'll face here in the playoffs, Marty.
Kelly, during that pit stop exchange, Brad Keselowski lost 1 spot and about 1 second on the racetrack to the leaders. I was talking to Paul Wolfe this morning. He said, over the summer, a lot of things happened to us. He said, some of it was our doing, but he said the mistakes must end today. Remember, they had that side skirt bent in earlier. They were able to fix that, but so far, a mistake-free day for Brad Keselowski in 4th. Martin Truex Jr. has clawed his way back up through the field twice now. Now he's in the top 5. And I asked him, when did you get over Richmond? Remember how upset he was after the race last week? He said, when I got to the airport, Cole Pearn pulled me aside and said, listen, move on. That's over with. We have 10 races to focus on. He's been focused on the playoffs since then and told his team a moment ago on the radio, Dave, we ain't out of this thing yet.
Joey Logano out of the playoffs, but not out of the racing season for sure. When I talked to the crew earlier today, I said, what kind of a 22 car do you have? And they said, well, we think it's probably a 5th to 8th place car. Right now, Joey Logano runs 6th. As for Denny Hamlin, he lost a position on that last stop in the 11 car because he stalled it leaving pit road. Very tough to get off of pit road sometimes, and when he let the clutch out, the 11 just died. Fortunately, he refired quickly and got it going, Marty.
Dave, a couple weeks ago, we had an off week here in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. So Kurt Busch walked into Tony Gibson's office and said, hey, I want to go to the next 2 races of the regular season in playoff mode. Why not? So they did that for Darlington, Richmond. He said it made us come to Chicago much more relaxed. Car right now for Kurt, a little too free. Remember, he was about to go down a lap a little bit earlier in the 8th spot. Matt Kenseth has been struggling with a race car that has been extremely tight for both of the last 2 runs. He told me it's really difficult to know where we stack up with the rest of the field because we just can't finish races. My main goal in round number 1, just finish off races where we've run, Kelly.
After starting 19th, Jamie McMurray has worked his way up into the top 10. This is his 3rd straight season in the playoffs, but how are they going to advance this time around? When I talked to crew chief Matt McCall, he said, look, we're way ahead of where we were at this point a year ago. Last year, we were still playing catch-up, just building our cars. Now, hey, there's no magic wand, but they feel like they are in a good position, much better than years past, Dave.
Kelly, one of the hardest things for Daniel Suarez, rookie in the Monster Energy Cup Series this year, is that they only race at Chicagoland once per year. So this is a new experience for him in this type of car, but he did run the Xfinity Series race yesterday just to get some laps in a field for this track, Kelly.
Birthday boy Jimmie Johnson has never won here at Chicago. He has, however, won 7 championships with Chad Knaus. Those over a variety of different playoff systems. But when I talked to Chad about this current system, he said, yeah, it really is a lot different, and it does not play to our style. The stage racing, shorter runs, does not suit us. We're much better on the long runs. They're going to have to make some adjustments if they're going to get back to Homestead, Miami, and run for the championship this year, Parker.
Kelly, we haven't talked a lot about Clint Bowyer today, but his radio's been anything but quiet. He's had a ton of issues inside that 14 car. The first half of this race, the brakes, they weren't working. The pedal was going to the floor. The splitter was on the ground. The good news in the second half of this race, the brakes have fixed themselves, and he's gotten that car handling a little better, just tight right now. He's the last car on the lead lap. And then behind him in 14th would be Dale Earnhardt Jr., who is the first car 1 lap down. They have not pitted yet in this pit sequence. The last time they pitted was on the stage, the end of stage 2, or stage 1, sorry. And therefore, right now, they find themselves trying to live out this run as long as possible to hopefully get a caution. See how that works out for them.
Chase Elliott out in front, searching for his first ever win in the Monster Energy Cup Series as we go NASCAR nonstop.
In 12 feet, come to a complete stop. Recalculating. In 1 mile, arrive at a place where you make your own lane, only to discover it has traffic jams too. Your all-new Compass.
Well-qualified current lessees of competitive vehicles can lease the all-new 2017 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x2 for $176 a month.
Busch.
It has the same great taste it's always had, even the same sound.
Busch.
The sausage and egg biscuit at Carl's Jr. and Hardee's. Stop on over and get 2 of them for $2.50. 2 sausage and egg made from scratch biscuits for just $2.50. Amazing times we live in, folks. Amazing times. Now at Carl's Jr. and Hardee's.
My burger goes best with mustard.
Ketchup and mustard.
Grass-fed beef.
No, corn-fed.
On the grill. Now, flat top. Iceberg lettuce.
Nah, arugula.
Jalapeno.
No way. Avocado, dude.
Medium rare. Gotta be well done. Brioche.
Sesame seeds.
American cheese. Cheddar.
Can I have a turkey burger? What? Turkeys are for Thanksgiving, man. I like my burger with the Coke.
I'll agree to that. Strictly with the Coke.
Only with the Coke.
Coke and a burger. Come on.
All right.
That's where you get the flavor.
I'll have the langoustine lobster ravioli.
For you, sir?
The original call was for langoustine ravioli. Langoustine is a tiny kind of lobster. Slight shellfish allergy rules that out. Plus, my wife ordered the langoustine. I will have chicken tenders and tater tots.
If you're a ref, you way over-explain things. It's what you do. If you want to save 15% or more on car insurance, you switch to Geico.
Sir, we don't have tater tots.
It's what you do.
I will have nachos.
T-minus 20 seconds and counting. 17 seconds and counting. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Winter Olympics, coming February to NBC.
Sunday night is football night. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers visit Matt Ryan and the Falcons as Atlanta will open their new stadium. Mike Tirico, Dan Patrick, they host football night in America. That's tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC. There's the new stadium. And actually, Kevin Harvick had referenced the way some positions in NASCAR resembled those in football.
I feel like we're NFL quarterbacks. I feel like that's what the driver and crew chief do. They're like the head coach on an NFL team and the quarterback on a team, because I wind up with a laptop and handwritten notes and things that I've accumulated through the years, and you look at all this stuff and you study constantly. It's just like other sports.
And right now, Kevin Harvick running in the second position, chasing after Chase Elliott, who has just under a 1 second lead over Harvick.
NASCAR has evolved into a sport in which the driver truly is the driver. It used to be the driver worked on the race car. He did all kinds of things. Well, today, he is treated like the quarterback, and he is expected to be prepared as a quarterback, be prepared as a professional athlete. Training, physical conditioning, being in a simulator, preparing. It is a completely different level of preparation today compared to that was in the past.
Marty.
Rick, you guys want to talk football? Hey, we're in Chicago. Let's talk a little baseball. The Cubs winning the World Series last year. Of course, Kurt Busch and his beloved Cubs. He was there for Game 7. So he's in town for the race and didn't go to the Cubs game, believe it or not. But he did go when he was here for the tire test. And yes, that is a World Series ring that his wife Ashley got for him for his birthday. I think Ashley gets nominated for Wife of the Year. I don't know how she pulled off getting a World Series ring for Kurt, but he told me, and he told all of us on NASCAR America, greatest gift he's ever gotten. Can you imagine getting a World Series ring, your favorite team in sports, for your birthday? That's a pretty good gift, isn't it, Rick?
Absolutely. Marty, it is Wife Appreciation Day, by the way. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that.
We all should send a text right now, right?
Absolutely. Coming into the final 5 laps of Stage 2. Want to listen in on spotter communication from the 18 team.
Hey, anything I can do? Be over to Wall too soon? Anything I can do counting-wise to help them guys out, or need anything? No, we know what we did. It was plain as day. We figured it out.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less. They knew exactly what happened, Steve. You documented it.
Yeah, but I do like the taking ownership of it. Hey, is there anything else from inside the car or the spotter on the roof? Can we help the situation? That's what teams need to do when the pressure of the playoffs turn it up, is don't point fingers at your teammates. Say, hey, raise your hand. Is there anything I can do to help? But you heard the quick response from Adam Stevens. No. Unfortunately, we know what we did, and as he said, it was plain as day.
Parker.
It's a 77 of Eric Jones right now, running 2 laps down, not having a great day, but it's just starting to get worse at this time. He's had his cool box fail, and he's called it the hottest he's ever been in a race car ever. And I spoke to him earlier today. He told me how going to the Cup Series this year was harder than he ever believed it would be. And I think right now it's made his day very hard.
Eric Jones, teammate to the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. Marty.
And Rick, with 2 to go here in this second stage. How about this rally for Martin Truex Jr. Restarted 19th, and if you're watching the top of the screen there, that number getting smaller every lap. He is catching those top 2 cars as well. So now the question is, can they have a clean stop here on pit road and keep him in the top 3? The only thing Truex has said this entire run is, we ain't out of this thing yet. I would say they've made that statement both on the radio and on the racetrack as well. He's made his way back into the top 3 here.
Yeah, Marty, let's see who's on the move. Brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. And of course, at the top of that list, 10 spots, Martin Truex Jr. They have battled adversity and have bounced back. Currently 3rd right now. Final lap of stage 2, and it's Chase Elliott who has just over a half a second lead on Kevin Harvick, running in the 2nd position. And Chase Elliott looking for his 3rd stage win this season, but it will be points that he is more impressed with, and potentially a shot at a win. Chase Elliott's going to win stage 2.
I think a big momentum swing for that team. You know, they just led 36 laps. The most laps they had led prior to that was Martinsville, the 6th race of the year. They led 10 laps. So I think race 1 of the playoffs, to come out and lead laps, win a stage, they've made a statement.
So Chase Elliott ends up winning stage 2. Is he on his way to his first ever win in the Cup Series? Well, he has the final stage in front of him. Teams on the wall anticipating the cars as pit road is open. We go to Marty.
Martin Truex Jr. hits pit road running 3rd. Rick, he said we took off really good right there. Pretty happy with the car, to be honest. Said it loses grip the further I go, but I can manage that with the track bar. No changes, Kelly.
And for Chase Elliott, he's now led 38 laps, and since making adjustments to the 24 early in the race, he's been really happy with the race car. Didn't hear call for any changes, 4 tires and fuel, Parker.
And Kevin Harvick's finished 2nd in both stages. That's 18 points, 4 Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel, and they're going to go back on an air pressure adjustment, guys.
And we're looking at the race off pit road, brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2 video game. Top 3 are going to hold their spots. Keselowski gains, as well as Hamlin, and Kyle Larson drops 2 spots.
Yeah, but Rick, you almost have to hold your breath. We saw this at the end of stage 1, the leader Kyle Busch winning the race off pit road, but we found out 8 or 10 laps later the wheels weren't tight. So right now we've seen good pit stops. Hopefully all the wheels are secure, though.
And so the lead lap cars will be making their way back up onto the track. Let's talk with stage 2 winner Chase Elliott, brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2 video game.
Hey Chase, Jeff Burton, NBCSN booth, you got us?
Yep.
But you guys ran that stage flawlessly. Tell us how good your car is.
Well, it's still early, you know how it is, so we'll see what we got when it counts. There was a good pit stop there by my guys, so keep it up.
Well, you may mention that it is early. What direction you think this racetrack's going to go? You think it'll loosen up, tighten up?
I'm not really sure. The sun's obviously setting, and I think this next run will be the telltale.
All right, Chase, appreciate you taking time. Good luck, buddy.
Thanks.
And he sounds so excited. He just won stage 2. He's leading at Chicagoland. I bet he'd be pretty excited if he gets to victory lane. You're watching Monster Energy Cup Series racing from Chicagoland Speedway. NASCAR Race View gives you access to features that let you follow your favorite driver just like you're at the track. Get live stats, leaderboards, driver, team communications, and more on any device. Get Race View for the entire playoffs for only $9.99 when you visit NASCAR.com/raceview today. Let's check in with Rutledge Wood.
Rick, down here in the infield, things are happening. We got kids hanging out down here with us. You know, when they built this track, it was like the field of dreams for racetracks, and that's why when I saw this mid-60s International Harvester, I immediately thought of my normal camera guy, Phil Kelly, who's got the red-blooded Bunders. He's off racing his this weekend. But I'll tell you what's interesting is you can't have a golf cart in the infield, but because there's cornfields everywhere, I think you're allowed to bring a tractor in. So I don't know if you have one at home, Jeff. I feel like you're kind of a tractor guy, but Apparently she thinks my tractor's sexy. That's what I've learned in the infield today, guys.
I didn't bring my tractor. I left it at home.
A lot of nice farm country around the Chicago area. As we look at the points that have been earned already today through the first two stages, there were 20 points available. And you look at some of these drivers, Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, earning 18 already.
Yeah, well, you can see Kevin Harvick, 18 points, Chase Elliott, 18 points. Both of those guys, we know what they did. They won stages, ran well in the stages, rather. And then look who didn't get points. Austin Dillon, Casey Kane, Ryan Newman. These are guys we talked about, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. They can't afford bad races. And in round one, they've already started with bad races. They do not have the speed so far this year to recover.
Well, we're showing points. I think it's time to kind of take a step back and explain to everybody how the playoffs work at the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. Well, it's multiple rounds. Starts with 16 drivers, then 12, then 8, then 4 drivers go heads up to the championship race in Miami, all even. Highest finishing car wins the championship. How does that work? Well, the format. The points will be reset at the start of every round with the playoff points added in. That's how the drivers will be seeding. The most important thing, the simplest thing, a win and you're in. A win, you move forward, and each round, 4 drivers with the least points will be eliminated. Those 4 no longer have a chance for the championship. And those playoff points that we talk about, you get 5 for winning a race, 1 for winning a stage, but they don't really come into effect until the start of the next round. So already, Chase Elliott, he just got a 1 playoff point. If he's fortunate enough to move into the round of 12, he'll have 1 more point added into his total.
And this time, Chase Elliott has chosen the outside line. Kevin Harvick will restart on the inside. Martin Truex Jr. and Brad Keselowski making up row 2. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson making up row 3. Field approaching the Geico restart zone to start the final stage at Chicagoland. Chase didn't get a good push from the 2 of Brad Keselowski, and so the 4 of Kevin Harvick has surged once again to the lead. And around goes the 1 of Jamie McMurray. McMurray sliding on the apron on the backstretch.
Didn't hit anything. Get rolling. Can't hear me.
Caution has come out just the 3rd time. The first time it's come out for something other than the stage ending.
He's running 11th position. Now the biggest issue is getting the car back on the pit road, getting 4 tires on it without a tire coming apart and damaging the fender.
Jamie McMurray, one of the playoff drivers that was at the bottom
right here, put 4 tires on.
of the playoff leaderboard.
You heard the crew chief. We're going to pit right now. We don't care if pits are open. Like you said, Jeff, we can't continue to ride around on flat tires. Come in, get some fresh tires on this car.
You'll have to start at the tail end of the longest line for pitting when pit roads are closed, but that's much better than riding around and damaging the car.
And the only time pit road opens is once the field is all in the line that they're supposed to be in as far as positioning. Take a look at what happened.
See Jamie McMurray right here in the bottom lane exiting turn 2. Comes up the racetrack, makes contact with the 31. I'm not sure if the car was tight, if he thought the 31 was moving up, but without a doubt, he runs into the left rear corner of the 31, spinning the 1 car out.
And the 1 slides into the infield. There at the back stretch. The free pass goes to the 21 of Ryan Blaney to get back on the lead lap. First race of the playoffs, and it takes place right here at Chicagoland. Stage 1 winner, Kyle Busch, goes out and dominates the first part of the race. Then it was Chase Elliott who was able to take stage 2. Who will win stage 3? The race, and advance into the second round of the playoffs. On Wednesday, make sure to tune in to Channel 90 NASCAR Radio on Sirius XM as NBC Sports will catch you up on what's taking place here at Chicagoland, as well as looking forward to what's going to be taking place next weekend when the Monster Energy Cup Series goes to New Hampshire. And Dale Jarrett's actually going to be the guest this week on Sirius XM. I want to take a look at today's Ram Guts and Glory with just 97 laps to go.
Well, mistakes. We've seen it over and over and over. We've seen pit road mistakes. We've seen mistakes on the racetrack. It's round one. You can't afford any more mistakes.
Yeah, and who else can step up? The 24 of Chase Elliott, he proves he can compete. Kevin Harvick has been up front. The 78 has run them down, though. What other drivers in the playoffs can step up and go after this race win?
Right now, the top 7 are all playoff drivers. Harvick, Elliott, Truex Jr., Keselowski, Larson, Hamlin, Kurt Busch. The top 7 all playoff drivers. Time now for the Subway Fresh Take as we listen into the 48 radio.
24 just won that stage, so we'll be coming around them. They are your 11th, they're first. I mean, we're not bad. We lose too many spots on restarts, and we're too slow passing lappers. Other than that, your lap times are fine.
You just heard it, Rick. Restarts. That's what this race has come down to. We saw Chase Elliott get the restart that started stage 2. He won that stage. He executed on this last restart. Kevin Harvick got the win. So even with 96 to go, Jeff, when is the last restart going to come? These competitors don't know.
You have no idea when the last restart is going to come. You have to assume this is the last one. So you can see Kevin Harvick, he's picked the outside line as I anticipated he would. He's got to make this work. This may be the last chance you have to grab the lead.
We'll see if he gets any help from the guys behind him. Green flag back in the air. '78 of Mark Truex Jr. giving the 24 a shove. The 2 was able to help out the 4, and the 4 checks out already.
Now Chase Elliott's going to have a really difficult time keeping that 2 car behind him. 2 car has that outside line. The 24 cannot enter the corner the way he wants to. Has to pinch the car on corner entry.
Up the racetrack he goes. It gets a little bit loose there. And once again, door to door, fighting for second.
And don't look now, but guess who's coming into the mix? The 78 of Martin Truex Jr. And right behind him, last week's winner at Richmond, the 42 of Kyle Larson.
They stay side by side for second. Chase Elliott surging ahead as they enter turn 3. Can he stay there? He does make the pass complete. So Chase Elliott up to second. Brad Keselowski third. As you mentioned, Mark Truex Jr. right there in fourth.
I think that was big for Chase Elliott to be able to get back in front of Keselowski for a bigger reason than just that one spot. Think about the races that he has lost. He's lost races late in races on restarts. He's just had 2 restarts. He had the lead, lost the lead. He did not have a good restart right then, but was able to battle Keselowski, get that second spot. I think emotionally, that was big to immediately get back about the car.
Well, and I talked to Crew Chief Alan Gustafson about these restarts, and I said, do you think it's gotten into his head at all? And he said, no, not really. I think that we've really made a lot of improvements, but as Alan said, he said, it's really those aggressive drivers. He even called them arrogant. So those arrogant and greedy drivers that really tend to do well on restarts. Chase doesn't have an arrogant bone in his body. Alan would actually like to see a little more of it out of his driver. Hey, meanwhile, we should check in on the 34 of Landon Castle. He's been in a bit of a different strategy, and it's played out. He took the wave around at the end of stage 2, and then the caution for Jamie McMurray timed out perfectly for him. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you should. He's hysterical, and it was because of a Twitter challenge that he was the official greeter here at Chicagoland today, so he was standing at the front gate letting guests in. Landon Castle, not only on a good strategy, but also says he has a fast race car today.
And he's on the lead lap right now, running 15th, Landon Castle. And there's only 16 cars on the lead lap. That's how blistering the pace has been. Kevin Harvick out in front. Chase Elliott running second. Mark Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch are the top 5. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Jimmy Johnson, Daniel Suarez, the top 10.
Well, you talk about the top 10, Rick. Currently 8 drivers in the top 10 are playoff drivers, one of them being the 7-time champ, Jimmy Johnson. You heard the pep talk. I'll call it a pep talk. That's a Chad Knaus pep talk of, hey, we just need to find something on these restarts. Well, he gained 1 spot up to the 9th position. I'm hoping, or I know they were hoping for more, but think about it. Today's his birthday. What's better than perhaps a win on your birthday? He's looking better already than the last time he raced on his birthday back in 2006, 39th. So he's already looking better than that.
He's never won here either. So winning on your birthday at a racetrack where you've never won, it just perfect. That would be ideal. And advancing into the round of 12.
Yeah, think about his day. He's been 11th in both stages. So when we talk about the points available, he has missed out both times.
The pep talk, hey, your teammate won that stage, you finished 11th. That was the pep talk.
That's all that is all that needed to be said between crew chief and driver.
You know, we hear those two. You know, it's not much, you know, compassion. Like, you know, they're hard on each other. They don't mince words. They're here to do a job. They're here to do business. They're here to win an 8th championship, break history, and that's how they treat it. You know, it's not fun, right? It's business, and that's how they work.
We were a part of history a year ago when Jimmie Johnson joined the likes of Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr. as the only drivers that had ever won 7 championships in NASCAR. Well, Jimmie Johnson could separate himself even from the immortals of the sport with an 8.
Molly, can you please take out the trash?
Recessive trait stiff generation. Who would like to read?
I reprogrammed the robots to do the inspection. It's running much faster now. See?
That's amazing, Molly.
Thank you.
At Coors, we built the most powerful solar array at any one brewery in the country, producing 22 million beers each year, powered by the sun. Coors Light, whatever your mountain, climb on.
A cheeseburger and onion rings for $2.99?
Man, I can't believe they still hand make the onion rings.
Oh, then you're gonna love this. It's hand folded.
Oh, it's a swan.
It's a napkin, dude.
Get a cheeseburger and handmade onion rings for just $2.99. This is how you Sonic. The all-new 2018 Camry. Toyota. Let's go places.
The playoffs are for the best of the best.
Kyle Busch gets the win.
In the playoffs, I'm coming for y'all.
These playoffs are my first.
Ryan, wow!
But they won't be my last.
In the playoffs, I'm the closer. There's only one path to the championship. And we're all on it.
Verizon IndyCar Series Championship at the Grand Prix of Sonoma tonight on NBCSN.
Today's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. Make sure to tune in weekdays at 5 o'clock for NASCAR America here on NBCSN. Coming up this week, what a great lineup. On Tuesday, Tony Stewart will be in the Stanford studio, and always entertaining when Smoke is on set. Then on Wednesday, Eric Jones, he'll be in the Hall of Fame. So make sure to tune in again all week, 5 o'clock, NASCAR America. Still out front, Kevin Harvick has an advantage over Martin Truex Jr. of 0.8 of a second. And pretty good battle building here between the 42 and 41, Marty.
And Kurt Busch is now in the 6th position. A moment ago, he was in 5th, and he's falling back even a little bit further now, telling the team he has a vibration, and it's actually getting a little bit worse. Also been a busy few minutes. Matt Kenseth radioed to his team and said, I hit the wall a few minutes ago. So for some of these playoff teams, a lot happening here in this stage, Rick.
It has been a very eventful day already for playoff teams and non-playoff teams. A lot of speeding penalties, commitment line problems, problems with the crews, but Martin Truex Jr. has been able to battle through that and now trying to challenge for the lead here again. Down to the bottom of the racetrack, Martin Truex Jr. After a speeding penalty on pit road, now fighting for the lead.
See how much faster he was than Kevin Harvick through the middle of the corner. And I don't think any of us should be surprised. The 78 car Martin Truex Jr. They've had it all year.
But now the execution. 78 laps to go. Speed hasn't been an issue for the 78. It's been somehow getting these winning cars to the start-finish line and taking the checkered flag. Sometimes it's been an ill-timed caution, slower pit stops. Different things have happened. With 77 to go, Marty, he looks like he has the best car, but there's still a lot of racing left.
And Steve, would you believe if I told you Cole Pearn's concern today were the longer runs? In practice yesterday, they were really good on the short runs. He said, that never happens to us. He said, I don't know what was going on. And it's funny, you know, everybody talked about this point bank that the 78 had coming into the playoffs, Jeff. I asked Martin about that. He said, we're not going to change who we are. We're not all of a sudden going to get conservative. We're still going to be aggressive, try and get these stage wins, try and collect as many points as we can. Right now, he's the leader. He's plus 50 over the 42 car, but I think that's a good point by Martin. You can't really change who you are in the playoffs, can you, Jeff? You got to stick with what you've done the whole entire regular season.
But Marty, especially when the advantage you've created for yourself is because you have a faster race car than everybody else. You definitely don't want to change that. They haven't tricked their way into this advantage. They've done it by having faster race cars. They've won stages. They've won races with the fastest race car. What they need to do, like Steve just said, is just find a way to win more races with the race cars that are typically faster than everyone else's.
Here comes the 24 again. Chase Elliott trying to take the spot away from Kevin Harvick. That's a battle for second. And searching around the track for grip. Now Chase Elliott goes the high line. Let's see if he can make that momentum work for his car. And Kevin Harvick almost shutting the door on him, but Chase Elliott's going to make the pass on the high side.
Well, and this final stage of this race is going to set up differently, Rick. Remember, stage 1 and stage 2 are both 80 laps. Everybody split it up in the middle. As you see a wiggle out of the 4 of Kevin Harvick, a nice save there. So they had to run about 40 laps on each set of tires. Well, this final stage, 107 laps. Well, with that quick yellow, let's just say 100. They need to go about 100 laps on tires. So now instead of 40 on each set, these cars are going to have to go 50. We have seen in races of the past, Parker, that extra 10 laps on both sets could definitely change the handling of these cars.
Right, Steve, and actually right now he just came across radio and said he's getting too loose into the corners. That's why he's lost the lead and fallen all the way back to third. And remember, the run before, he was getting too loose off the corners. And I don't think this 4 is surprised to see that 78 go up there and take the lead from them. They knew coming to this race, they felt like compared to the Toyotas, they were maybe the best of the rest. But I think he is surprised to be racing against that 24 right now, guys.
Well, listen, we just talked about the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. and how fast they've been, but I think we've got to give credit to these two teams. This 4 car right here, he has led more laps a day than in the last 14 races. And then the 24 car, he's led more laps than in the last 22 races. So at the time where you have to step it up, where the pressure's on, both of these two teams have found a way to be better when it counts.
We mentioned so much about mind games and the pressure. What about the mindset of a driver that's in the playoffs? Well, Martin Truex Jr. expounded on that when he talked earlier to Dale Jarrett.
Selfish and greedy. I mean, you got to be out there all for yourself and not worry about anybody else. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you don't want to rub this guy wrong or that guy wrong, but you know to get the win or to put yourself in position to win races, sometimes you've got to piss people off, make them mad, do things they don't like. That's just part of the deal.
So you haven't lost any of the desire to compete at the highest level, even though you've been doing this a long time?
I think the closer you get, the more success you have, and you feel how good that feels. You get more greedy. You want more. You know, the more you win, the more you want to win. At least that's where I'm at in my career right now.
Split personalities. That's where it is. Martin Truex Jr. off the racetrack. Unbelievably nice. Unbelievably kind. Giving. On the racetrack, you can't race like that. You have to race like your mom told you not to act when you were playing with your friends. That's how you have to race. You have to have a split personality.
And he wants to take everything he can get. And right now he has the lead. Want to take a look at today's Toyota driver updates. 4 of the 5 Toyotas are in the playoffs. That's why they're in yellow. And you see 3 of the 5 are currently running in the top 10.
Yeah, you see Kyle Busch back there in 17th. Why is 17th important? Well, he's the first car 1 lap down, so he just needs that lucky break. He needs the yellow to fly so he can get back on the lead lap. His lap times are very good. They're top 5 lap times. But right now he's still trying to battle to get back on the lead lap.
And he goes to shortcut once again. Across the apron. Martin Truex Jr., the dominant season that he's been able to put together, and we have always, when we go to a 1.5-mile track, have always looked at the 78 as the favorite. No matter what location that 1.5-mile track is in, it has always been the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. that has risen to the occasion and has been very strong, like he is once again here. Marty.
And Rick, Kurt Busch, 16 laps ago or so, was running in the 5th position, but he cannot stand that vibration any longer. And Steve can tell you about this. It's a very tough position for a crew chief to be in. Tony Gibson saying, I need you to stay out longer, but the driver saying, I can't stand it any longer. So here's another playoff team, maybe a loose wheel. The team did say they felt like they got all the lug nuts tight, but they're going to have to pit here. Their hope here for Tony Gibson, maybe they can drag more cars down pit road and this won't hurt too bad for Kurt Busch, but he just could not stand that vibration in the 41 car any longer.
Marty, I understand Tony's thought that maybe him putting on new tires will drag those lead lap cars to pit road, but with 66 to go, these leaders are still outside their fuel window, and with these long green flag runs we've seen today, Rick, even though these leaders will be losing time to Kurt Busch, I don't believe any of them will come to pit road until they can make it to the end of the race on fuel.
And what's that number again? Around 50, 55?
55, 56, maybe they stretch it to 58. 66 is way longer than anybody in the garage here talked that they could go.
Out in front, Martin Truex Jr. with 65 laps to go. We go NASCAR nonstop.
That's it, baby. Put it to the wood. You'll get it.
You don't need sunlight or wide open spaces. You don't need 4 wheels. Actually, you don't need any wheels. You don't need a lot of time. You don't even need gravity. All you need is an engine and Sunoco fuel.
Welcome. How's it going?
Hi. Hi.
Okay, so you've got 2 friends here.
Yes.
This is the J.D. Power Award for dependability. Now, I want you to give it to the friend that you think is most dependable.
Oh!
Wow.
It's just not fair. Does she have to?
She doesn't have to.
Oh, I don't?
No, but it's a tough choice, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, luckily, Chevy makes it a little easier, because it's the only brand to earn J.D. Power Dependability Awards for cars, trucks, and SUVs 2 years in a row.
That's amazing.
Chevy's a name you can trust.
Smithfield marinated fresh pork. Perfect any night for bringing the family together. Grilled, roasted, sautéed, or slow cooked. The prep work is done, so your meal is ready in about 30 minutes. So you'll never miss a beat. Enjoy real flavor, real fast with Smithfield marinated fresh pork. Flavor hails from Smithfield.
A long weekend is just an excuse to get a long way from boring. With models up to 62 horsepower or room for 4. Go rugged, go big, go Gator. Now get 0% financing for 60 months plus $500 off the Gator XUV 825i at a dealer near you.
Experience Talladega Superspeedway differently this year with the Kids VIP experience. Your kids can go behind the scenes, take a hot lap, a guided garage tour, or pose for a photo in Victory Lane. This is more than a race. This is Talladega.
Gather your friends, grab your tent, and meet us at Talladega Superspeedway for the biggest party in NASCAR.
Free camping is available all weekend for Sunday ticket holders. Plus, our Tala taxis can take you around to see it all. This is more than a race. This is Talladega.
Jared Goff and the Rams take on Carlos Hyde and the 49ers in an early season divisional battle. Unbelievable! Thursday night football. When it's on, it's on. Rams, 49ers, Thursday at 8, only on NFL Network.
NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less on the track and on the road. You're watching Monster Energy Cup Series racing from Chicagoland Speedway. It's the Tales of the Turtles 400. Parker.
Well, guys, I'm looking at that 78 run the bottom and drive away from the rest of the field, and it's so reminiscent of what we've seen him do at these mile and a half, which is paint that white line on the bottom. And I believe this race has fallen into his hands because of the weather conditions out here. It has been a cloudy, overcast day, which it wasn't for any of the practices, and the track temp is actually 30 degrees lower than these cars practice, and therefore the top line has just not come in. And Jeff, I think this is exactly what the 78 wanted. This race has literally come to them.
You know, Parker, the 78 car, they just seem to find a way in about every situation. But I do
Jeff,
think
the 77 is spun off turn 4 here. He's down into the grass. Here, sorry to interrupt.
No.
This caution right here is definitely going to change things up because, as you were talking about, that 78 was up to a 3-second lead.
Eric Jones goes around, and that brings out the 4th caution of the afternoon. The 41 had come to pit road, and so Kurt Busch was battling with some issues. They had speeding. Let's hear from Marty.
Yeah, Rick, when they came down to fix that vibration that he had, he got caught for speeding. Same section everybody's been caught in today. Section 14, 50.06 miles an hour, so barely over the speed limit. You see Eric Jones coming to pit road, and now Kurt saying once he went back out, he still has that vibration, so maybe bigger issues for the 41, another playoff player.
You see the repairs happening with the 7-7 of Eric Jones. Well, here's what happened on the racetrack. Right side of your screen, he's already very sideways, obviously lost control by himself. There's no one else in the picture. Goes for the big slide. Does a nice job of not getting into the outside wall, but still some heavy damage to the quarter panels with those flat tires.
You see the right rear tire blew right there, and then as he was coming back to pit road, he damaged the right rear quarter panel. Now they're having to work on it. But small things in a race, Rick, that you don't pay attention to, don't notice, but just a few laps ago, Martin Truex Jr. passed Landon Castle and Paul Menard. Prior to that, Kyle Busch was the first car 1 lap down. If this caution comes out 4 laps ago, Kyle Busch is getting back in the lead lap. Small things that you don't see have a huge bearing on what happens in these races.
Yeah, and he's one of the fastest, and we're talking about Kyle Busch. He's one of the fastest cars on the track this weekend. So if you got him, or you let him back onto the lead lap, definitely would be in contention for this race.
And don't think for a minute that Martin Truex Jr. and his team didn't know that. It is best served for them to go catch Landon Castle, put him a lap down to take Kyle Busch, one of the contenders for the championship, out of having an opportunity to get that lap back.
It has been a very interesting race already with still 56 laps to go. Tonight on NBCSN, the championship will be decided in the season finale of the Rise in IndyCar Series. It's the Grand Prix of Sonoma. That coverage beginning at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And Joseph Newgarden won the pole for tonight's race. He has a 4-point lead over Scott Dixon. Still 7 drivers mathematically with a shot at the championship.
Very interesting thing in this race is that this is double points. They give double points for the last race of the year, so you can make up some ground.
And Newgarden is trying to hold off a bunch of Sonoma winners. Scott Dixon in second. He's a 4-time champ and a 3-time Sonoma winner.
Marty.
And Rick, what was maybe most impressive about qualifying in Sonoma for the Indy cars real quick, everyone in that Fast 6 had sticker tires, except for Joseph Newgarden, the championship leader, and he won the pole on older tires. So a very impressive run by Joseph Newgarden. That's one extra championship point in the IndyCar Series. So going to be a fun championship battle tonight. Getting ready for pit stops here. Race number 1 of the playoffs in Chicagoland. Martin Truex Jr., the leader, said, I love the way the car took off. And he said it held on very well. I can manage everything I need inside the car with a track bar. So he's going to do that. No changes for the second straight stop for the 78 Ford Goodyear tires.
Chase Elliott pits from second. He said, I don't really know what to tell you. I'm still pretty happy with the car, and I feel like it's pretty fast for what our potential is. No changes on the 24 Ford tires and fuel, Parker.
Kevin Harvick has just been getting too loose late in the run. That time it was loose in. They went back on a wedge adjustment. Ford Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel for Kevin Harvick to see if he can catch that 78.
One of the things everyone is holding their breath, though, as we watch the race off the pit road brought to you by Kroger Click List, is speeding. Don't speed on pit road. It has caught numerous teams already.
With tomatoes and onions and thick carved turkey breasts on carved turkey for a limited time. Cranberry mustard sauce, man, that looks good. The autumn carved turkey is back for a limited time at Subway.
In 12 feet, come to a complete stop. Recalculating. In 1 mile, arrive at a place where you make your own lane, only to discover it has traffic jams too. Your all-new Compass.
Well-qualified current lessees of competitive vehicles can lease the all-new 2017 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x2 for $176 a month.
Coke Zero is now Coke Zero Sugar, with great Coke taste. Some people were excited to hear the news. Some were skeptical. So we're not going to have the star of the show you're watching come out and say, you'll love it. No special jingle written by this week's hottest pop star. No famous internet celebs who happen to be holding the label just so. Okay, maybe just one little pour shot. The only thing that will make you believe Coke Zero Sugar has great Coke taste is trying it yourself. Ice cold Coke Zero Sugar. Try one today.
A long weekend is just an excuse to get a long way from boring. With models up to 62 horsepower or room for 4. Go rugged, go big, go Gator. Now get 0% financing for 60 months, plus $500 off the Gator XUV 825i at a dealer near you.
This fall, anywhere in the world, when Americans are at risk, one team brings them home. The Brave premieres next Monday, September 25th on NBC. Let's go to Rutledge Wood.
Rick, we've been talking all day about what a big sports town Chicago is, but a lot of fans may not realize that they actually used to race inside Soldier Field where the Bears play. Take a look at these pictures. They raced there from 1935 till 68. They did stock car races, midget races, you name it, but the action was insane in there. Check this out. I mean, that's not a way you want to end your day, but obviously when they built this track out here in Joliet, the fans showed up in huge numbers. Again, just another thing that adds to that great sports town that is Chicago. Look at that Soldier Field. Wow.
Absolutely beautiful. So many great venues here in the Chicago area. Want to listen into the 78 radio as they decide lane choice.
6 minute restart call. Outside to the Harvick. Yeah, I think outside. Yeah. 724 to be second, and I was going to take the bottom. 10-4.
Race leader gets to choose either the inside or the outside lane, and then everyone, or actually the other driver running second, will have to take whichever one the race leader doesn't want to take. And then from that point back, every odd number starter position has to start on the inside.
Well, this is it. We talked about restarts. 53 to go.
They can all make it on fuel. Will it go green until the checkered flag? Right now, Truex Jr. with a great restart has the advantage. He's in front of Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski. So, I guess boisterous earlier in the weekend, talking about the strength of the manufacturers, currently running in the 3rd position.
Mentioned, Rick, 51 to go, so all of these playoff cars now know they can make it on fuel, but if a caution comes out, they're going to want some fresh tires. But Jeff, we've seen this all day long. Daniel Suarez right there racing Ryan Blaney. Is there an etiquette? What do the non-playoff cars expect to do? Remember, playoff and non-playoff cars both on the racetrack.
Also, Clint Boyer, we see Joey Logano up there, but listen, you have every right to the racetrack as they do. You've earned the right to be here and race. You don't want to be involved in an incident with a playoff guy, but at the same time, you have the duty to go out and do the best you can for you and your team at your racetrack just as much as it is there.
Currently 15 cars on the lead lap. And not on the lead lap, drivers like Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Ryan Newman, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Casey Kane.
And look at the 18 of Kyle Busch climb the hill. Why is this important? They are all fighting for that free pass position. Currently, the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. holds it. Behind him, Austin Dillon. Behind him, the 18 of Kyle Busch and the 10 of Danica Patrick. This is the toughest race on the racetrack currently. They know as the laps close down, a yellow could change the course of their entire day if they're fortunate enough to get their lap back.
Of course, last time, Steve, the leader got back around to a couple more cars and put cars laps down between Kyle. He was in that free pass position while we see the 24 going for position number 3. And then he lost it. So this is a huge battle for Kyle. He had raced his way into the top 10 in cars even though he wasn't in that position. So the car is still fast.
Car is fast, but the problem he has right now is you see him clear Danica Patrick. He still has the 3 of Austin Dillon and the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. in front of him.
He's going to have to get by them if he wants to be into the free pass position. Take another look at the run Kyle Busch has made here.
We saw Free getting into turn 3. He saw the 3 car of Austin Dillon, knowing that was the opportunity to get back in the lead lap, or put himself in position to get back in the lead lap, and just overdrove the entry a little bit and to chase it up the racetrack. Very loose. But his race right now, and the intensity in that car, is every bit as if that's for the race win. Because that's your day. That's your opportunity to get your lap back.
Denny Hamlin there made short work of Brad Keselowski for the 4th position. He made that look pretty easy, Rick.
They make it look a lot easier than it actually is. Martin Truex Jr. out in front. We saw it just moments ago, the Roscoe, Illinois native, Danica Patrick, on the racetrack. And big news this last week from Danica. She actually posted it on Facebook that said she will not be back with Stewart-Haas Racing in 2018. So she becomes a free agent in the world of NASCAR and racing to find out if she will have a ride in 2018. Also, Eric Almirola in the same position. So Almirola will also be a free agent, joining Matt Kenseth. Kurt Busch has been rumored that direction as far as not having a ride in 2018, and Casey Kane.
And, you know, some people had speculated that Danica Patrick was just going to bow out, that she, you know, didn't want to race anymore. But her comments this week, later this weekend, rather, were that when she made that announcement, part of her felt like she died. That you know, she wanted to race, that she loved racing, but at the same time, she wants to be competitive. She can't drive a competitive car. She doesn't feel like she can have a shot, then she doesn't want to do it.
Brad Keselowski, we just mentioned Denny Hamlin made it looked relatively easy to take the 4th position. Well, now he's under pressure from the 42 of Kyle Larson. Really surprising. I had the 42 in my mind going to run a little bit better today. While he hasn't been bad at all, he's been inside the top 10 all day. Just been kind of a quiet day. Now, that's absolutely fine in his points position. That's all he needs to do to move forward in the playoffs, and maybe that's their strategy, but we have yet to see the 42 get up there and lead any laps.
A lot of drivers taking different strategies into these playoffs because of the fact there are 60 points per race that are available. Kevin Harvick mentioned, I need to make points up. I need to get points. I know that's the way you advance. As long as you're not the bottom 4 in points after the 3rd race, you will advance to the next round. Get a few updates. We start with Marty in the 78 team.
Take you through the field, starting with Martin Truex Jr., the leader of the race. I love what he told Dale Jarrett earlier. You got to be selfish and greedy in the playoffs. So far this year, Martin Truex Jr. has won half of the mile-and-a-half track, trying to be greedy today and make it 4 for 7 on the year, Parker.
Yeah, but don't count out the guy chasing him, Kevin Harvick, in that 4 car. In most of the runs today, his car has been best about 25 laps in the run. So I'll be watching to see if he can start to make inroads at 78, Kelly.
Priority for Chase Elliott winning. He said, we've had a year and a half to do it. I take a lot of pride in it. And look, I've got just 10 races left driving these 24 cars. It would mean a lot to me to add to the win list on the 24 car. Remember, he switches to the 9 next year.
Kelly, on that last run, the 11 car of Denny Hamlin was on the splitter to start the run, and when it comes off, he was loose in and off the corner. They made an adjustment for it last time, Marty.
Hey, Paul Wolf told me earlier today, he said, you used to come to the first race of the playoffs, bring all brand new stuff. Not this year. He said, because of the new format, we've been bringing our best stuff every week. Right now, Brad Keselowski saying the car like had a light switch go way tight in that 2 car, Kelly.
While the 42 of Kyle Larson could probably play things pretty safely in this first round, their mindset is to go about their business like they have through the first 26 weeks of this year. He said, look, we can't change our mind now, be more or less aggressive. That's when you get into trouble. We just got to do what we do, let the points take care of themselves. A couple positions back on track is the 7-time champion of Jimmie Johnson. When asked if he had thought much about what number 8 would bring, he said, no, I really haven't fantasized about it, except that potentially we could get number 9 or 10. Look, you're only as good as your last race. Maybe one day in my rocking chair, when the dust is settled, I'll have time to reflect on it, Marty.
Kelly, it's been a solid but not terrific day for Matt Kenseth, running in the 9th position right now. He told me before the race, biggest thing for us, we just have to build some momentum. He said we're a much better race team when we have momentum going in our direction. Our biggest problem, we can't finish races. So right now, they just want to finish where they're at, top 10, Kelly.
Yeah, and Jamie McMurray also in the top 10. He's done a nice job recovering after he had that spin out early. This is a company that just feels like they're miles ahead of where they were a year ago. Their equipment is better, and they expect better results in the playoffs this time around, Dave.
Kelly, 21 of Ryan Blaney's car. It was so bad handling that he thought something was broken, but he was encouraged by crew chief Jeremy Bullins to stay with it. They made an adjustment for that loose condition on the last stop, Parker.
And Dave, Austin Dillon is in 16th place, but he's the first car 1 lap down, and he's in a furious battle with the 18 car to hold him off to be that car, the first car 1 lap down, if they were to get a caution, Dave.
And he can see him. There is the black nose of the 18 of Kyle Busch. Isn't that a good-looking race car? The skills car coming to try to get back in the free pass position and maybe back on the lead lap, Marty.
Even further back, older brother Kurt Busch. Remember they had that vibration a little while ago, then sped on pit road. They are down 1 lap right now. A moment ago, Tony Gibson said, hey, the 3, a little bit further up, that's your bogey. Go get him, and we can get the free pass. But there's a long way between the 3 and the 41, Rick.
Absolutely. And Kyle Busch getting back on the lead lap would be huge. But for Kyle Busch to get back on the lead lap, not only does he have to get by the 3 first, but a caution would have to come out before Martin Truex Jr. puts another car a lap down.
Yeah, that is a concern. Landon Cassill having a remarkable run in the 15th position is only maybe 25 or 30 car lengths ahead of the race leader.
I've been watching this battle. Kyle Busch is able to close ground on Austin Dillon, but when he gets close to him, he just can't do anything with him. He loses the downforce on his race car, and he has had his hands full. He's chasing up the racetrack 3 or 4 times. This battle is intense. I can promise you, as intense it is in that 18 car, it's every bit that intense in that 3 car as well.
Martin Truex Jr. looking to start the playoffs off with a big win at Chicagoland Speedway. He's 35 laps away.
Baba Black sheep. Have you any wool? No, sir. No, sir. Some nincompoop stole all my wool sweaters, smart TV, and gaming system. Luckily, the Geico Insurance Agency recently helped Baba with renter's insurance. Everything stolen was replaced. And the hooligan who lives down the lane was caught selling the stolen goods online. Visit geico.com and see how easy it is to switch and save on renter's insurance.
A cheeseburger and onion rings for $2.99? Last time we ate this good for $2.99, we were in college.
No, I was in college. You were in denial.
That's not true.
Get a cheeseburger and handmade onion rings for just $2.99. This is how you Sonic.
With Smithfield Fresh Pork, the possibilities are endless, so you can bring great flavor to any meal. With a variety of hand-trimmed cuts, from chops to tenderloins to ribs, Smithfield uses the highest quality fresh pork to bring out the best in every dish. And because Smithfield Fresh Pork can be easily prepared in so many delicious ways, you can bring great flavor to the table any night of the week. Smithfield Fresh Pork. Flavor hails from Smithfield.
A cheeseburger and onion rings for $2.99?
Man, I can't believe they still hand make the onion rings.
Oh, then you're gonna love this. It's hand folded.
Oh, it's a swan.
Oh. It's a napkin, dude.
Get a cheeseburger and handmade onion rings for just $2.99. This is how you Sonic.
The playoffs are for the best of the best.
Kyle Busch gets the win.
In the playoffs, I'm coming for y'all.
These playoffs are my first.
Ryan, wow!
But they won't be my last.
In the playoffs, I'm the closer.
There's only one path to the championship. And we're all on it.
Knowing that you're competing against the best.
Sometimes you've got to piss people off.
At the end, it's one race to be a champion.
Packers, Falcons, Sunday Night Football on NBC.
Coming up after the checkered flag on NBCSN, it's continued post-race coverage from here at Chicagoland. And then that's going to be followed by the season finale for the Verizon IndyCar Series live from Sonoma. A championship will be determined tonight in the Verizon IndyCar Series. And this has been an incredible battle between Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch. Is he going to get by him? Finally. Kyle Busch working to the inside of Dillon. And Austin Dillon will now fall back to the 16th spot. Kyle Busch is the highest non-lead lap car right now, scored at 15.
Yeah, we had mentioned Landon Castle. Castle had to come to pit road. Now Paul Menard is the last car on the lead lap. So as you mentioned, Kyle Busch is a position behind him. Great run by Paul Menard in that 27, currently in the 14th position.
And the hits keep coming for the 17. He was on pit road and speeding again. So Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had battled back to be 1 lap down. Now is 3 laps down again. His day just keeps getting worse.
And one of those teams that just can't afford mistakes. They knew it coming in. They knew they did not have the speed to have mistakes, and they just keep making them. And what's ironic about that, the decision to pit early in the race was out of caution. It was, hey, let's don't let this race get out of control. It's pit, make sure we don't blow a tire, and then the penalty, and then a series of penalties.
17 just served its penalty, its pass-through penalty on pit road, making its way back out onto the track while we watch the 2 and 42. And now the 42 of Kyle Larson trying to get by Brad Keselowski for the 5th spot. Martin Truex Jr. has a 2.5-second lead over Chase Elliott, who's running in 2nd. With 26 laps to go, Kevin Harvick runs 3rd, Denny Hamlin 4th, and then this great battle for 5th.
Are you surprised to see the 42 of Larson go to the top of the racetrack? Seems to do that a lot. Marty.
And Joey Meyer keeping Brad Keselowski update as to where the 42 goes. That time he shoots to the bottom. Looks like he'll get that spot. We told you a moment ago, Keselowski said it's like a light switch went off. Car way too free. But he told Paul Wolfe the adjustments you made last time took half of that freeness out. But obviously still trying to hang on to it. Too free still for Brad Keselowski, Rick.
And he's fallen back a spot. What does that mean? Well, it's 1 point less that he's going to be able to earn if that's where he finishes. And every point matters. Every point is important for these playoff drivers as they look to advance into the round of 12.
And Rick, with 24 laps to go, now the important communication between driver and crew chief needs to be what you need in your race car for a short run. We've seen so many long runs today, but if a caution was to fly, we're looking at a green flag run less than 20 laps. So the handling characteristics can be different. The adjustments may need to be different. That's the information these crew chiefs are asking for as the race winds down.
32 lap tires. Most of the drivers on the lead lap came to pit road on lap 212 and already completed 244 laps now.
Well, Rick, we've talked about penalties. It has not been the smoothest day for the 78. Remember, on lap 40, they were caught speeding. Fortunately for the 78, they were so close to the leaders that they were able to save a lap. They didn't go a lap down. Then at the end of the first stage, they had to pit twice. They thought they were missing some lug nuts, started all the way at the rear of the field, drove themselves all the way up inside the top 5, executed well on pit road, and now all the way back up to lead the race.
And Steve, you know how drivers think. Jeff, correct? You don't think about the ones you won, you think about the ones that got away, right? And Martin Truex Jr. this weekend, very quick to point out, the last 2 races, we've been leading with 5 laps to go. You think about Darlington, they had a flat tire, not able to win that race after leading with 5 to go. Richmond leading and dominating the race with 5 to go. They got in a wreck late in the race. So Truex came into the weekend thinking more about the 10 points that got away and the 2 wins that didn't happen over the last 2 weeks, trying to score those 5 points today. I don't know why you drivers, Jeff, always think about the ones you didn't win instead of the ones you did win.
And this is so hard to win.
Absolutely. You guys have talked about that so much. But as we look at the steering wheel here for Martin Truex Jr., I want to point out this one is teal and gold, and that is on purpose. There are actually 28 wheels out here on the 40 cars that look this very same, and it's for the Martin Truex Jr. Foundation. They're raising money this month. Ovarian cancer. Sherry Pollux is a long time a girlfriend of Martin Truex Jr. She has suffered from ovarian cancer. There she is on the right. And the pediatric cancer research for the gold is this month of September. And so the awareness is being brought there. At the end of the month, they will auction the steering wheels off and raise money for the Martin Truex Jr. Foundation. And they will keep Sherry Strong going. And it has been really a life-altering foundation that Martin and Sherry have worked on ever since they've been together, and Sherry was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Martin Truex Jr. has really brought a lot of bright spots into their life with the wins and the success that he's had behind the wheel of this 78.
But big disappointment last week. Marty just talked about it. You always remember the races that you lost. Last week, they appeared to have Richmond wrapped up. A late race caution, 18 to go. Martin Truex cruising. 15 car getting in the wall. NASCAR threw the caution. They didn't like that caution, but the fact of the matter is they came in, got beat off pit road. The 42 ended up taking the race win away from them.
Yeah, then the big insult was even worse. The 11 gets into the rear bump with the 78 right here. Heavy damage on the 78, which didn't matter for the points. He was still the regular season champ. They talked afterwards, but not only a chance to not win the race, but also an accident.
And, you know, look at the faces. That's them getting the award for being the regular season champion. They look like they were getting a penalty. I mean, they were not happy to be there. And it's, Marty talked about it. You're furious when you lose a race. When you have an opportunity and it gets away from you, you're leading Darlington. Coming to the white flag, leading Darlington, right front tire blows. I mean, 2 in a row.
And Jeff, I asked him about that scowl after the Richmond race that we just showed there. He said that's called passion, and that's a good way to put it, right? Drivers get so upset when things don't go the way that they look all night like they're going to go a certain way. They're very upset after that Richmond race, and deservedly so.
Jeff, you were able to win 21 of these races. And I'm guessing that all of them were incredibly hard work, and you appreciated all of them. I think so many times we see a driver like a Jimmie Johnson go out and win 83 races, and you think, oh my gosh, you know, they can win these races at any time, but they're not easy. These are the best in the world at stock car racing that they've got to compete against every week.
Well, they're extremely difficult to win, and each one has its own personality and its own challenges, so that's why each and every one of them means so much.
Well, the races aren't easy, and neither are the playoffs, but a team that has rebounded. Remember, they were the cause of the yellow today, the one of Jamie McMurray, currently running in the 10th position. Was spinning earlier with flat tires, limped it to pit road, made repairs, has recovered, stayed on the lead lap. Jeff, you talked about this one car. They were the model of consistency, and that's what we needed to see out of them. Well, they have done it. 10th by no means is a win, but they have limited the damage, unlike the teams like Stenhouse Jr., 4 laps down, Ryan Newman, 3 laps down. Dave, this one car, Jamie McMurray, staying on the lead lap, currently in the 10th spot.
And Steve, as a former crew chief, let's talk about the 18 situation and Kyle Busch. They saw the data over time trending toward their teammates' pit road crew. It looked better. It looked like a way that could help your team in the playoffs. So when the opportunity came and all the managers got together and said, would you like to make the switch? You were Adam Stevens and you said, yes, I will. I'll take that team. But today, 2 execution effort errors in the opening run. What do you do this week?
Well, it's going to have to be some meetings, because one thing that data and statistics do not take into account is playoff pressure. We talked about it at the opening of the show. The playoffs are here. The drivers feel it. The crew chiefs feel it. The pit crews feel it. This is different. This is not the regular season. A championship's on the line.
I thought you brought up a great point in Countdown to Green. That crew was used to pitting a driver that was running 8th to 10th. The pressure running 8th to 10th is not the same as if you're leading the race and you have to nail your pit stop to make sure you leave pit road with the lead.
It's not the same, Rick. When you're the leader, all eyes are on you, and the mistake you make is going to be shown to everybody.
Well, once again, Martin Truex Jr. has a chance to put another car a lap down. That would make Paul Menard the first car a lap down. So if he could do this, get Paul Menard a lap down, it eliminates the opportunity for Kyle Busch to get his lap back if the caution were to come out. Parker.
Well, guys, we watched that 78 go up there and try and lap that 27. I can't help but think back to Friday when we watched Kyle Busch sit on the pole for this race, 3/10 over second place, and how astonished we were with the massive gap he had over second place. And now we watch the 78 once again just be excellent, be the best there is right now, and find himself almost 5 seconds over second place. It's just incredible to watch what Martin Truex Jr. and this 78 team have done week after week.
And it's also been amazing to watch the 18 car. When they got down, you think with a car that fast that you'll get your lap back. Well, this almost exactly the same thing happened last year with Kevin Harvick. He had a very fast race car, got laps down, and just never could seem to get it back. Every time the caution came out, the leader had gotten in front of another car, and he never got himself to be the first car a lap down. So really the same kind of race for both Kevin Harvick last year and now Kyle Busch this year.
And this is Kurt Busch that's about to go 3 laps down. So Kurt Busch in the 41 was 2 laps down, and now Martin Truex Jr. able to get by him again to go 3 laps down for the 41. And there's been problems with playoff teams. There have been difficulties, distractions, things that have happened for these playoff teams that we mentioned. You can't make mistakes and expect to either win the race or help your chances advance out of the first round.
That's absolutely right. When you look at the points, Martin Truex Jr. labeled as the leader, a win and you're in. So this would be a guarantee for the round of 12. But look at the other end. Look at the 31 of Ryan Newman, the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse. We haven't said much about the 5 of Casey Kane, currently running in the 21st position. They haven't completely taken themselves out, still only single digits behind, but they also haven't helped their cause at all to advance out of the round of 16.
Under 7 laps to go, Martin Truex Jr. out front. If he wins, you advance. One of the other things that come into play with the playoffs is if he wins more than 1 race, that means somebody else doesn't advance with the race win, so he can put more pressure on these teams that he's competing against in the playoffs.
The other thing that can happen, if Martin Truex Jr. wins this race, we know he's advancing to the next round, period, end of story. But that allows him to change his strategy in the next 2 races in just getting points. He could use strategy just to steal stage points from other people. So you know, once again, having a fast race car and executing is a huge advantage in this new point system.
Yeah, you mentioned that new point system, that 78. He already had that huge gap, 53 points earned over the regular season. Well, this will be 5 more points earned, and while he won't realize those for a couple races, when the round of 12 comes along, that's just a little bit more of a cushion, just a little bit more of a safety net if trouble happens in that round. Remember, that round has Talladega in it. The best thing you want is a little safety net going to Talladega.
I think it's funny that the crew chief over here is already worried about Talladega. I don't blame him. He's right.
You know, we talked a lot about the 78 of Martin Truex Jr., but I think another team that really has made a statement today is the 24 of Chase Elliott. I think everyone had them perhaps working out of the round of 16, but how far could he go? Well, remember, half the races in the playoffs are 1.5 miles. So the first one being 1.5 miles here in Chicago. And here is the 24 of Chase Elliott, who's already won a stage, currently running in the 2nd position. While he hasn't got up and passed the 78, he has emerged a little bit of that mid-pack team as perhaps a favorite to extend his playoff hopes, go farther into the playoffs.
And I think maybe showing a little bit of strength here in this first race of the playoffs is Kevin Harvick, who might not have been on the radar of many teams looking at these playoffs as a potential champion, but now I think this is making a statement with what Kevin Harvick has been able to do.
Yeah, and I think Denny Hamlin having a solid day in 4th. I think this is a sneaky, dangerous team. If Denny Hamlin and his team can just slowly, quietly advance on, I think the experience of losing a championship at Homestead, Miami, I think that will pay dividends for Denny Hamlin if you give him another shot.
Well, don't remember, the 11 is racing without his crew chief. Wally Brown's on top of the box today. Mike Wheeler comes back next week, so mission accomplished to race without your crew chief. I think also mission accomplished for Kyle Larson. I know the goal was not to come here and run in the 5th position, but the goal was to come here and not remove himself from the first round of the playoffs, and I think he's done that. He currently is way above the cut line, and it's kind of been an uneventful day. Sometimes, Rick, while that's not flashy, uneventful is the key.
And right now, that's exactly what Martin Truex Jr. wants. Uneventful. He doesn't want anything to happen. He has over a 6-second lead, almost a 7-second lead on Chase Elliott as he comes to the start-finish line. 1 lap to go. Sponsored by Credit One Bank from Chicagoland. Martin Truex Jr. battled after adversity, and he did it a year ago. Last year, in 2016, he was able to win this race after having issues. They had a problem with the tire early in the race. Then they battled back. Well, it was a speeding penalty. Today, he's battled back, and he has once again shown his dominance on 1.5 miles. Martin Truex Jr. is going to win the first race of the playoffs.
Congratulations, Mark.
It took 4 times.
Unbelievable. Thank you, guys. You guys are the best, man. No doubt about it. Thank you.
That is his 5th Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series win of the season. It took him 4 times. Well, it took the team 4 times to go through tech inspection to get the car onto pit road. Once it cleared, it was clear that this was one of the best cars on the track today. Kyle Busch probably had the fastest car, but because of the problems on pit road, the 78 ends up getting the first win of the playoffs in 2017. This moment is presented by Sunoco, fueling victories all season long. And there went the tire. You see part of it going right into the car with him. This has become a very familiar sight. 12th time already that Martin Truex Jr. has won one of the Monster Energy Cup Series races. And from the disappointment of the ending in Richmond 1 week ago, it's the elation himself into the round of 12 and a dominant performance. 77 laps led for Martin Truex Jr. today. Rutledge.
Rick Martin Truex Jr. has climbed out of the car. Look how excited this guy is. Round number 1 after a crazy day. From a penalty on pit road for speeding loose lug nuts. Martin, you did it, bro. There's that.
Oh, yeah! This is awesome, man. I'm so excited. You know, this is the playoffs. This is what it's all about. This team, my team's unbelievable. Thank all the fans for coming out. We love coming to Chicago. Just so proud of everybody. And, you know, the speeding penalty, I was like, oh, no, here we go again. After last year, we had to come from the back. But the car was amazing. We just kept our heads down and kept digging and fighting and just did what we always do, and here we are.
The relief has to be huge after the car having trouble getting through tech. We know the last 2 weekends did not end the way that you wanted. To see that smile back, to know that you're already in the next round, how good does that feel?
It feels great. I mean, it's the best feeling in the world. Just, you know, not just the playoffs, but just winning races at this level and doing it the way we're doing it right now. And just blessed to be here. I've got the best team in the world. I love those guys, and I'm just glad I'm driving for them, and I'm glad we're having success. This is just unbelievable.
Take this microphone. What do you want to tell these fans?
You guys rock! We'll see you in victory lane, buddy.
There's so much more that Martin Truex Jr. wants to accomplish. His career has definitely been one of ups and downs. At the low point, he wasn't sure where he was going to race for. And now, he has definitely solidified himself as the leader for the championship this year. I talked about the fact that Martin Truex Jr.'s career has been filled with ups and downs. Well, his personal life as well. He and Sherry Pollux continue to smile and cherish every time the 78 can have success, because they understand that it's just a part of life, and they know how big life and how important it is because of the trials and tribulations that they've had to go through. And you see the emotion already building up with Martin Truex Jr. as he's excited about this first win of the playoffs, and look at the smile on his face. What an incredible story and journey Martin Truex Jr. has been on as he's made it back to victory lane again. Marty.
And Rick, they have showed such dominance at these mile-and-a-half racetracks. We have seen teams be able to dominate in the playoffs. Truex sending a statement here in race number 1 of the 2017 playoffs that we are going to be the ones to beat for the championship in 2017. Sherry here. Sherry was actually shooting a video as Martin came into victory lane. She wants to capture this moment as well, and Truex ready to get out and celebrate with his team like this. What an amazing performance from this race team. And a hug for from Cole Pearn. What sort of statement was this today by this race team, Martin?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really care a whole lot about statements. I'm just having fun. I'm proud of this group, and I'm proud of our pit crew for doing what they did, and just everybody on this team. You know, it's important to come here, not let the pressure get to you. And I think we did a good job of that. But just anytime you go to victory lane, it's special, and just so many people to thank. You know, I'm kind of speechless, but Barney and Joe and TRD, Toyota, everybody at Costa Mesa building excellent engines. TRD, Salisbury, Furniture Row, Denver Mattress, Bass Pro, Tracker Boats, Auto Owners, 5 Hour, Wix, Garmin, Textron Aviation. I think I got all of them, but just everybody, thank you so much. This is a dream come true. We're having the time of our lives, and on to the next round.
On the professional level, it's a win in the playoffs. On the personal level, it's a win in September. So I want to know what an inspiration this young lady has been to you, Sherry, your girlfriend.
I can't even tell you how much better. I'm a lot better driver these days because of her and what she's been through and what she taught me. And we've learned a lot about life together. And we continue to face every challenge head on, not scared. We get after it, and we live every day like just like we want to, and we have fun. So I'm very proud of her, and very proud to have the teal and gold wheel in the race car, and thankful for the other 28 guys that have done it this month as well. So just thankful for all that and everybody who makes this possible.
I know, Sherry, it's always emotional for you, but to get a win in September with your steering wheel in the car, it's got to be even an extra emotional.
Again, this is the second time. Last time we got $100,000 for that wheel, so it'd be awesome to get that again. But yeah, to be able to create awareness through our foundation for ovarian and pediatric cancer is amazing for both of us, and we're so honored that all the rest of the garage decided to run our wheels too. It's been a really cool month for us, and we're going to continue to be an advocate for those kids and those women that like me that are fighting. You can go to nas.cr/auctions to bid on the wheel too. So
it's impressive that you reeled that off. I think the amazing thing is, Sherry, you're going through treatment right now, and folks may not know that.
Yeah, I had treatment a couple weeks ago, and I did really good. So I've got 4 more rounds, so we'll see how this goes, and I'll keep fighting for all the other women out there like me that are battling this disease.
If you need inspiration, Martin is standing right beside you.
She reminds me every day. Every time I have a bad day, it's not so bad. So thanks for that.
There you go, Martin.
It works out pretty good.
It has worked out pretty good. Martin Truex Jr., Sherry Pollux, an amazing story for these guys. Win #1 in the playoffs, and back-to-back years, they get the win here at Chicagoland. That's the way to start the playoffs, isn't it, Rick?
And it absolutely puts things in perspective as Martin Truex Jr. gets slimed right there in victory lane at Chicagoland. Well, it's time now for the post-race show with Chris Devoda, Dale Jarrett, and Kyle Petty.
The fun in victory lane. I'm just so glad Sherry stepped out of the way before that slide.
I'm just glad you're not there. I'm glad you're not in victory lane this time, Krista. And then came over here.
In that. What a special story. A win on the racetrack, as you just heard from Martin Truex, but a win in life for him and his longtime girlfriend, Sherry Pollux. He's got climbed out of the car, and Rutledge said, "What do you have to say to the fans?" And he said, "You guys rock." Well, right now, Martin Truex is on a roll right into the second round of the playoffs. He knows he's advancing. Coming up on the post-race show, yes, Martin will join us. It looks like he'll be a little green, but he will be here. We'll also hear from some other playoff drivers. Great day for Chase Elliott. Kyle Busch, what an interesting day for him. We'll discuss that. And Kevin Harvick found some momentum today as well. So we are going to hear from a lot of those playoff drivers. In fact, the top 11, 10 of the top 11 were playoff drivers. Joey Logano also putting himself in there. But yeah, I mean, Truex really just continuing what he had done, Dale, in the regular season. The guy is leading basically every category, and he does what he did last year and wins at Chicagoland.
Yeah, they can't even put themselves behind and feel like that they're in a hole, because they knew that there was plenty of time. They had the car to do it all. So let's take a look at his day. They had trouble getting through inspection, KP. The first time had to go through 4 times.
4 times, and that'll hurt them next week during practice. But look, they've got a win under their belt now. But when we've seen other teams have this issue all year long, this is one of the processes that NASCAR goes through to make sure that everyone's where they need to be.
And then some trouble on pit road as well. So they had drama before the race even started, and then it didn't start well for them with issues like this.
No, we had a speeding penalty that put them to the rear. Then they came back later and had an issue with not getting all the lugs tight on the right rear. So just a number of things that continue to put them behind. You know, you look at situations like this. The best thing that happened here is he was up front. When he did his pass-through penalty, he did not didn't go a lap down, so that helped in that respect.
Yeah, the big thing was, as Dale said, he was running up front. He was challenging, contending for the lead. He was up at the front, so when he had the penalty, had to pit, had to come in again, then he was not penalized as much as far as time on the racetrack.
Well, there were a lot of cars with speed today. Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, but when Truex got back, and then here on this restart, it was smooth sailing from here.
Yeah, and this has just been what they've been doing all year. Yeah, the restarts at times, especially the really late race restart, have given them more trouble. But on fresh tires and with a car like this, he knew all he had to do was get out front, and that allowed him to run the race that he really wanted to for the entire rest of the time.
So that's 78 in victory lane. We have seen that now 5 times this year. He has had the most wins, most top 10s, most laps led, stage wins, playoff points. So we had said, too, it's not a surprise to see Martin Truex in victory lane, but after what we just saw, the way his day started, I mean, if they are not a championship caliber team before, when you fight back from adversity like that, they most certainly are a championship caliber team now.
Yeah, and that's just shows everybody what they knew anyway. He was going to be one of the 12, so they know now there's 11 spots available. That was kind of a given anyway, but this certainly makes it official.
So as he gets unslimed, I guess you will, in victory lane, Martin Truex the winner here in Chicagoland as NASCAR's playoffs start. But elsewhere, out in California, IndyCar's season is about to come to an end. Let's throw it over to Lee Diffie for a preview.